Chapter 322. Wei Lianxiang's mouth was wide open like a carp out of water. His face was distorted and his eyes were wide open. From his eyes, it could be seen that Yang Guang was like a living evil spirit in his heart, or a devil that had crawled out of hell. In any case, he had absolutely nothing to do with humans. He curled up and even lay at Yang Guang's feet. His two withered hands that had moved as fast as lightning had shrunk to his ribs like chicken claws. He looked like an idiot who had suffered a stroke. It was very comical, but anyone who knew Wei Lianxiang's true identity would not find it comical. They would only feel a deep chill and a hair-raising terror. Yang Guang slowly retracted his index finger and blew away the non-existent dust on it. The two inner attendants who stood like statues beside him silently knelt in front of him and lifted Wei Lianxiang up so that Yang Guang could look down at him. "Eunuch Wei, you are really good at using poison." Yang Guang glanced at the squirming green spot on Wei Lianxiang's index finger and sighed. "Unfortunately, it's still lacking a little. Who would have thought that a loyal eunuch who grew up under my imperial father's care would be a spy for the Dark Sunflower faction? Now that I think about it, when I cooperated with the demon sect to kill my good-for-nothing brother, I probably received a lot of help from you. I heard that you divided poison into live poison, dead poison, active poison, static poison, and collision poison. Interesting. I also made a classification. I divided substances that can kill into disease, plague, evil, poison, and devil. Yin and yang imbalance is disease, goo worms and fungi are plague, the body and mind are evil, the evil metal wormgrass is poison, and greed, stupidity, and madness are devils. Just the word poison alone has 10 categories. Snake, insect, plant, mineral, chemical, hormone, radiation, microorganism, energy, sound, light, and spirit. But to be blunt, I am good at all of them. Wei Lianxiang had never seen an expression on Yang Guang's face. In a trance, Eunuch Wei even thought that the person standing in front of him was a completely different person. Apart from his face, Yang Guang's temperament, habits, and manner of speech had completely changed into the shadow of another person. "You're not His Majesty." Wei Lianxiang uttered these words with a trembling voice. "Yes, I am not him." Yang Guang sighed. "I don't know who I am either. Sky Demon? Yang Guang? If possible, you can call me Heavenly Demon Yang Guang." Wei Lianxiang's eyes widened. "Without me, your act of pretending to be His Majesty will be exposed very quickly. No matter if it's the concubines in the harem or the ministers of the previous court, they will all be able to see through you with a single glance. Only by cooperating with me can you imitate His Majesty's words and actions." "I didn't know you had such ability." Yang Guang suddenly turned his head. His aura and mannerisms suddenly reverted back to the muddle-headed Yang Guang from before, but as he took a few steps forward, the arrogance, vulgarity, and rules on him slowly faded away. The Yang Guang that was as cold as a ghost god returned to this body. He lowered his eyes and sighed. "Do you think someone has replaced me and replaced me?" Wei Lianxiang looked as if she was looking at a ghost. In the demon sect there are countless unique skills. Is there a kind of demonic skill that can turn a person into another person? Looking at Yang Guang's eyes, Wei Lianxiang couldn't help but say, "There is indeed such a martial art in the Sacred Gate that can wash away a person's memory and appearance, then use the soul-sucking technique to hypnotize him. When he wakes up, he will completely become the person we want. As long as we don't remove it, he will never find out for the rest of his life." Many of our spies in the Dark Sunflower faction infiltrated the enemy's inner circle like this. "Interesting." Yang Guang smiled. "Sometimes, people will disregard everything in order to obtain power. They can pay any price, even if it means killing themselves. But you are the Emperor. It's the same for the Emperor. I was able to become the Emperor because I was ruthless enough to myself. In the past, for the sake of the throne, I killed my own nature and became a simple and humble person. Today, in order to regain my power, I can kill again. Do you know how to obtain power? That is to find a strong person and then turn yourself into him. Erase your emotions, kill your desires, and turn yourself into a blank person. Only then can you accommodate the spirituality of that strong person and completely turn yourself into him. From then on, Yang Guang will no longer exist in this world, only the heavenly demon Yang Guang. Yang Guang's tone became more and more ethereal, and Wei Lianxiang's fear also became deeper and deeper into his bones. In just a short period of time, the red candle tier under his feet had already become Wei Lianxiang's most fearful nightmare. He was almost about to crawl and beg for mercy. This martial art that turns you into someone else is called the revered lost emotion chapter. Wei Lianxiang's entire body trembled as he looked at Yang Guang with extreme fear. This servant is willing to serve your majesty. He kowtowed and said, This servant will report everything about the Dark Sunflower faction truthfully. This servant can monitor the Dark Sunflower faction's plans for your majesty and monitor the officials for your majesty. With this servant around, I will definitely create an iron harem for your majesty. No need, I don't need it, Yang Guang said indifferently. Wei Lianxiang's expression was full of despair as he struggled to say, This servant knows the great Sui imperial court like the back of my hand. This servant also knows the secrets of the major aristocratic families. I can help your majesty uproot the aristocratic families. Your majesty! Your majesty! Speaking of poison just now, let's not talk about your mediocre martial arts. Do you know what poison you've been poisoned with? Yang Guang raised his eyelids and asked him. Looking at Eunuch Wei's blank expression, Yang Guang finally understood. He didn't even know that he had been poisoned. Back then, I created the Tao of disease and plague. There are true qi of warmth, heat, dampness, dryness, heat injury, cold, and miscellaneous diseases. Today, I suddenly recalled my old knowledge and supplemented the Tao of plague, evil, poison, and demon. It is called the Five Ghosts Heavenly Demon Technique. Although it's not very useful, it's already very easy for me to toy with you. Just now, I used the qi poison from the Heavenly Net Deceitful Way, which was created by an old friend of mine, to poison your entire body to death. Then, I used an external devil technique to plant a devil in your spirit. As he spoke, Yang Guang looked into Wei Lianxiang's eyes and only saw an extremely horrified and furious gaze. However, Wei Lianxiang could no longer speak at this moment. He had been completely pulled into an illusion. He saw the back of an unparalleled beauty. Her figure was thin and graceful, and she seemed to have the bearing of a celestial being. It was as if she was a celestial being born from the great freedom heaven. She was even better than the saintess of the merciful boathouse and the dark sunflower sect that Wei Lianxiang had seen. It could be said that Zhu Yuyan paled in comparison, and Bai Xiu's heart lost its luster. Even the peerless Fan Qinghui of the past had to pay attention to her. When Wei Lianxiang was laughed at by her, he lost his soul. All the essence qi in his body left his body. The poison seed that had poisoned his true qi to death suddenly twisted into a strange spirituality. It reversed the flow of Wei Lianxiang's true qi and completely changed its nature. A divine technique that was the growth of yin and yang and celestial transformation took root in his body. Without Yang Guang's teaching, the revered unruffled scripture quietly circulated in Wei Lianxiang's mind. His memories turned into a pile of cold data. His emotions, beliefs, personality, and self were all erased by the revered unruffled scripture until Eunuch Wei became a blank person. The mysterious shadow became clearer and clearer. Her gaze, her smile, her raising of her hand, and her turning of her head became a deep memory that Wei Lianxiang could not forget. Then, it gradually became a vivid illusion. Her memories, her emotions, and her personality were all resurrected in this withered and old eunuch's body. The demonic energy that seeped out of Yang Guang's body continuously entered Wei Lianxiang's body and resonated with the spiritual imprint. The heavenly demonic power completely controlled the circulation of Wei Lianxiang's true qi. The demonic energy, along with a majestic vitality, replenished Wei Lianxiang's body, providing endless nourishment for his transformation. His spirit was sublimated, his true qi was purified, and his body and life source were also slowly transforming under the control of the heavenly demonic power. The strange true qi that nourished yin and yang completely changed Wei Lianxiang's body. It completely dissolved the martial arts that he cultivated and remolded a more profound and miraculous foundation. As time passed, the true qi in Wei Lianxiang's body burned like fire. The darkness and impurities in his body faded along with the fire, revealing a brand new body that was as white as suet jade. He stood tall and had a completely different temperament and behavior. Wei Lianxiang opened his mouth and called out softly with a voice that sounded like a silver bell, "Military Governor." Chapter 323. Even though the Great Sui was filled with discontent and was on the verge of collapse, Yang Guang still controlled an enormous amount of power in the Guanzhong region. Of the two most powerful sects and clans, the Jingzhou Alliance and Huashan sect were completely under Yang Guang's control, and the other clans did not dare to disobey Yang Guang's orders. While Yang Guang was gradually cleaning up the military forces of Guanzhong, he also handed over the control of the gangs of the Jianghu to Tongguan. Under his orders, other than the harem, all the other palaces were opened. Yang Guang made full use of his immense power and his deep understanding of social science after rebuilding his personality to build many organizations with strict systems and solid foundations. The most important among them was the 6 divisions, which were personally led by Yang Guang. It was also much easier to control the army than he had expected. Although the Yuan family, Dugu family, and other powerful families had deeply infiltrated the military, as long as they did not rebel, these officers would still have to listen to Yang Guang's orders. Under such circumstances, using the demonic seeds to infiltrate and control the army was almost always successful. At night, the sound of orderly footsteps could be heard on the bluestone official road of Chang'an. This was the old site of Chang'an in the Han dynasty. Because it was too dilapidated and small, Emperor Wen of the Sui dynasty built a new city on the southern slope of Longyuan in the southeast and named it Daxing. This place still used the ancient name Chang'an. Most of the high-ranking officials and aristocratic families of the Great Sui lived in Daxing, and this place became the gathering place for all sorts of people. Daxing City was controlled by Yang Guang's Zhao Alliance, and this place became the base of the Chang'an gang. The dark sand official boots stepped on the bluestone path that hadn't been maintained for a long time, stirring up the puddles from last night. The footsteps were extremely light, showing that the owner of these boots had extraordinary lightness skills. Looking through the thin mist in the early morning, one could only see a row of ghost-like shadows. The streets and alleys in Chang'an were old and messy. People who got up early quietly closed their windows, not daring to make a sound. The muscular men of the capital Zhao Alliance quietly stood at the entrance of the alleys. The entire city of Chang'an was controlled by the soldiers and the members of the capital Zhao Alliance. Only the core area of the Chang'an gang was still under their control. At the headquarters of the Chang'an gang, Fu Di, the gang leader, slapped the table furiously. The capital Zhao Alliance has gone too far. Relying on the support of Yang Guang, that muddle-headed ruler, he dares to bully us. The old city of Chang'an is our territory. They took over by force just because they have the power of the army. This is intolerable. He slammed his palm heavily on the desk, and with a sudden burst of palm energy, the mahogany desk was smashed into pieces. Seeing Fu Di's anger, the core members of the sect couldn't help but shiver. They could clearly see that Fu Di's palm strength was contained. On the surface, the big table was only split into a few pieces, but in reality, The fibers of the mahogany were completely broken by this palm. If it hit a person, seeing that Fu Di's power had improved again, they quickly made up their minds and didn't dare to have any other thoughts. The mahogany table was sent flying from the hall to the door. Even though it was dozens of steps away, the force was still as strong as a crossbow, with the power to break flesh and bones. However, before it could fly out of the door, it seemed to have fallen into an invisible net. It froze in midair and then fell to the ground. "Who is it?" Fu Di raised his head and roared. A pair of black boots stepped into the great hall. Fu Di saw that the person who had come was wearing the clothes of a palace attendant. He was a middle-aged man who had maintained himself well. He had a fair face and no facial hair. Although he was a little old, his skin was like fine white jade due to his proficiency in internal martial arts. His most eye-catching feature was his pair of hands. The joints were well proportioned and the nails were neatly trimmed. It was truly a pair of exquisite hands. As soon as he opened his mouth, his voice was somewhat feminine. "How dare you, Fu Di? You dare to insult the current emperor?" He slightly cupped his hands toward the direction of Daxing City to show his respect. His long and narrow eyes swept over the lobby with coldness. All the backbones of the Chang and gang felt a chill on their backs, as if the cold scales of a poisonous snake slid across their skin. "Who are you?" Fu Di snapped. "How dare you break into our Chang and faction's territory? The whole world belongs to the emperor. There is no place in the world that our Chamberlain province dare not break into. I am Chao Jingchun, the Chamberlain province's chamberlain. Above the emperor's 12 guards, His Majesty has set up the East faction and the West faction to supervise the illegal gangs in the world. I am the Qianhu in charge of the East faction. By the order of Eunuch Tong Guan, the eunuch of the East faction and the governor of the imperial envoy, I am here to send your whole family to the West." Chao Huachun smiled, but his words were full of killing intent, which made people shudder. Fu Di's beard rose and he snapped, "How dare you? Our Chang and faction follows the invitation of the Dugu organization. How dare you, a mere eunuch, kill the family of a minister? The supreme judiciary is the law of the imperial court. Who do you think you are? I only know the emperor, but I don't know what the supreme judiciary is." Chao Huachun calmly looked at Fu Di, who had gathered his genuine qi and was ready to fight. He chuckled and said, "You slandered His Majesty, and that's enough to sentence you to death." Seeing that Fu Di still wanted to say something, Chao Huachun, who had already lost his patience, slowly withdrew his hands and turned into the lobby like a phantom. Fu Di raised his palms, and his genuine qi surged like thunder. He waved his sleeves, and under the strong wind and clouds, a pair of iron palms appeared and disappeared, like a flood dragon coming out of the sea. Chao Huachun's eyes were half open and half closed. A light flashed on his fingertip. Sensing the qi, it broke Fu Di's fist wind and drilled into his right eye. Fu Di's body brushed past Chao Huachun and rushed out of the lobby. 1 step, 2 steps, 3 steps, and finally he stopped. Under the gaze of the backbone of the Chang and faction, he knelt heavily on the stone floor. A line of blood flowed down from his right eye, making his horrified face look like a ghost. Chao Huachun glanced at the silver needle nailed in the main hall, smiled coldly, and turned to leave the lobby. Before leaving, he made a gesture to the team of East Chang and faction members who followed him. They stood at the door of the headquarters of the Chang and faction and listened to the sound of the blood cutting through the wind. The knife light of the Chang and faction appeared, like frost and silk, with a blood-red luster. The people nearby could only hear the cries of pain, begging for mercy, pain, struggle before death, and angry roars from the courtyard. However, the sounds gradually disappeared in the time it took to drink a cup of tea. In the mist of dawn, the city of Chang'an returned to its former peace. Lu Sangqin, the Minister General of the Left, was about to go to the court when he heard the screams of his family outside the door. "General, General!" The family guarding the door even forgot the rules and rushed into the inner hall in horror. Lu Sangqin scolded, "What are you panicking about? Even if the sky falls, your master will be there." "You don't have to scold me, Lord Lu." Yu Huatian of the West Chang heard that Lord Lu colluded with the Yuan family and refused to obey the emperor's summons. "So I came to ask Lord Lu to come with me." Chapter 324. Trouble both inside and outside. Yang Guang put down the report in his hand and sighed. The Yuan clan colluded with the old officials of the Zhou dynasty and has a huge hidden power. There are warlords and generals loyal to them everywhere, which is why I didn't dare to touch them before. After all, the Dugu family is a relative of the emperor. They have the greatest influence in the imperial court. Their leader may be muddle-headed, greedy, and arrogant, but he doesn't dare to make things difficult for me. After all, I am their backer. Dugu Feng isn't muddled. The Song household is complacent. Although they have a marriage alliance with Sichuan's unique castle and have managed the southeast like an iron bucket, they are more than capable of defending their territory but not enough to advance. Only the Li household has drifted away from the imperial court and has great prestige among the landowning households. Although I have always made things difficult for them and caused them great trouble, the hidden dragon in the abyss will eventually be unable to suppress them. As for the rebels, the Tile Village, Do Jianda, and Du Fue are the most powerful. The rest are just mediocre. And the 8 clans and 10 societies, they are all a group of potential rebels. Yang Guang slammed the information on the 8 gangs and 10 societies onto the long table, flicked his sleeves and sneered, "Let's start with the most recent ones." He turned around and saw that there were only a few old and ugly eunuchs left in the room. These were the ones Tong Guan had picked out because their life potential was too low. Now, the number of eunuchs in the inner palace had decreased by more than 10 times. Tens of thousands of eunuchs had all been transferred away by Tong Guan. One by one, they were taught the demonic seeds and the sunflower treasure book to fill in the 2 factories. The rest were either old, weak, deaf, blind, or handicapped, or mysterious like shadows, shrouded in yin qi from the inner faction. My country has fallen to the point where 20,000 eunuchs rule the world. Even though Yang Guang had erased his past emotions, he couldn't help but sigh. But he knew that the newly trained 12 guards had not been infected enough by the demonic seed and did not have enough blood to feed on. It would take time to completely control the army of eunuchs. Only the army of eunuchs, because of the miraculous effect of the sunflower treasure book, could gain combat power very quickly. This world was full of martial arts, and all the eunuchs in the palace were skilled in martial arts. However, due to the fact that their limbs were incomplete, it was difficult for them to reach the upper realms of internal martial arts. Thus, there were very few aces. However, this might have been intentional by the previous dynasties. After all, if people who had served their time could still practice good martial arts, then the emperor would be easily controlled by the internal court. After all, it was easy to cultivate in the government. The eunuchs in the palace rarely had anything in the world that they couldn't get their hands on. They were also clean from a young age, and their thoughts were as pure as one. They didn't have to run around for a living, and it was easier for them to focus on something. If it wasn't for the limitations of their bodies, the number of masters they had would not be any less than some of the big sections. Now that Tong Guan had been reborn and brought with him the world's fastest martial art, the Sunflower Treasured Manual, it just so happened to respond to this general trend. Not to mention that the Sunflower Treasured Manual had been deduced by Tong Guan for decades. With the solid foundation of the way of heaven and man established by Chen Ong, it had limitless potential. In addition, Yang Guang had used the heavenly demonic power and the heavenly demonic stone to push this mystical martial art to another level. This mystical martial art that traced the wonders of male and female, traced back to human desires, the wonders of reproduction, and finally recorded the way of yin and yang. In this world, only the secrets of longevity and the victorious records could compare to this mystical martial art. If the original Sunflower Treasured Manual was only a secret path, then after Chen Ang's improvements during the period of Su Wu Hall, it was already connected to the way of yin and yang. The most amazing thing was that this mystical martial arts shortcut had no side effect. Once it was mastered, it would be equivalent to an extremely profound achievement in both Taoism and Buddhism. Anyone who could change this mystical martial art from male to female would have the achievements of a great master. It was the same for female to male. This was because the appearance of male and female was already connected to the most mysterious and most essential way of yin and yang. As for male to female, there was a hurdle that could be completed quickly. After that, not only would there be no drawbacks of rapid advancement in demonic and evil arts, but there would also be a magical effect of sharpening one's mind. It could be said to be the fastest martial art technique in the world. When I first created this martial art, I only touched upon the essence of yin and yang. There was only a sliver of the way of heaven and man, Yang Guang said to Tong Guan, but I didn't expect that you would actually grab hold of this sliver of hope and enter the way of heaven and man. You have innovated the treasured manual and added a layer of Buddhism's essence. Not the appearance of a man, not the appearance of a woman, there is no appearance of me, there is no appearance of a person, there is no appearance of all living things, there is no appearance of a person with longevity. Heaven and man, the growth of all living things. You don't need to use your own musical instruments to materialize, but use the world to materialize and pretend to be someone else's pleasure, a free game. That's why it's called free-form transformation. Eunuch Tong, your realm can already be called free-form transformation sky demon. This sunflower treasured manual can also be renamed free-form transformation sky demon power. When you need me, call me Lady Tong. When you don't need me, just call me Eunuch Tong. Tong Guan smiled. He was no longer dressed like a woman. He stood there like a holy god, causing people to forget about his gender. They could only notice the Buddha who seemed to be possessed by the devil, transcending everything and playing around freely. The Sehangjing Mosque tried its best to imitate the transcendent aura, the celestial aura, and the best charm technique were nothing in front of this natural celestial aura. If the women from the Sehangjing Mosque were to stand in front of them, they would look like mortals trying to imitate this aura. It would be laughable and vulgar, causing their aura and appearance to drop by 30% out of nowhere. Yang Guang said, "At that time, you were just changing from a female to a celestial. You had just touched the first heaven of the realm of desire. Now that you have reached the sixth heaven of the realm of desire, proving free-form transformation, you are neither yin nor yang, neither male nor female. After thinking about it, I think it's more appropriate to call you eunuch." He did not want to talk about this with Tong Guan, so he changed the topic and said, "Your martial arts are the most effective against Buddhism. When Sakyamuni achieved Tao, he had to go through the test of the sky demon and suffer all kinds of misfortune, let alone his disciples and disciples. Unless they reach the realm of Dharma, they will not be restrained by you. Only when they achieve Buddha's fruit can they counter you. But, the Buddhism of this world is still far from it. When the people from the Sehangjing Mosque come to Luoyang to choose the emperor, you will go to the Jingyan Monastery and invite the Sky Demon to lure the so-called 4 great holy monks here. They will turn into the 5 great demon kings under your command and help me turn Buddha into a demon and control the world. Yes, demon of self. Your Majesty, primeval demon," Tong Guan said seriously. "In tomorrow's court meeting, the Yuan family and the Dugu family will gather a large number of aristocratic families to kill the East and West Mills. They will make a lot of noise and ask me to punish you. I have tolerated them for long enough. You know what to do, don't you? This time, settle them all at once." Tong Guan bowed his head and said, "Although I can't say that I have full control of the Guangzhong area, I can massacre them at any time." They can't do much. Control Daxing, Chongjian, and Luoyang. Finish them as soon as possible so that we can wipe out the rebels in the world. Yang Guang looked back at the setting sun outside the window. He did not know how much blood would be shed tonight. Looking at the empty palace, Yang Guang sighed and said, "If we don't act soon, we won't even have enough eunuchs in the palace." Chapter 325. Yu Wenji stood in the middle of the courtyard, the mysterious ice force circulating around his body like pearls. The mysterious ice force was a strange revolving force. It was mysterious because it could circulate at will. It was cold and sharp, turning into ice. In the hands of Yu Wenji, this unique skill passed down in his family was unfathomable. When he struck out with his palm, the surroundings responded, making it difficult for others to predict the operation of his vital energy. The gate tower of the Yuan mansion was tall, with layers upon layers of terraces and pavilions. It occupied more than half of the square. This was the old mansion of the Yuan family. As early as when Emperor Wen of Sui Yangjian ordered Yu Wenkai to supervise the construction of Daxing City, it had been hidden. The location of Daxing City was to the south of the old city of Chang, and in the Han dynasty. The terrain was wide and flat, with 6 hills running from east to west. The shape was similar to the 6 lines of the Qian hexagram in the Book of Changes. Yu Wenkai placed the 1 and 2 9 in the palace to be the residence of the emperor, but hid the most honorable one, the 9 5, in the heavily decorated mansion. The ambition of the former ruler of North Zhou was clear. His trusted subordinate, Zhang Shurha, hurried out from under the eaves and ran towards Yu Wenji. With a panicked expression, he said anxiously, "General, the emperor established the 2 factories to monitor the world, investigating the treacherous and evil. He used spies to spy on the ministers and easily exterminated their families. Now the aristocrats are in a panic, and the people in Daxing City are agitated. I'm afraid there will be a big change soon. That muddle-headed emperor is going against the law and seeking his own death. We will just wait and see. Are we going to interfere in this mess?" Yu Wenji sneered. Zhang Shurha said worriedly, "The eunuchs of the east and west factories have surrounded Daxing City like an iron bucket, as if they are covering our eyes and ears." I'm afraid what he meant was still quite worried. When Yang Guang summoned the ministers to establish the east and west factories, he was mocked by the scholars. Everyone in the aristocratic families thought that Yang Guang was at his wits' end and actually asked the eunuchs of the palace to do things for him. At that time, the aristocrats thought that they could watch a good show, but they didn't expect those damn eunuchs to be so cruel. In the short span of 20 days, there was no one in Daxing City who was not in a state of panic. They were afraid that the 2 factories would knock on their front doors. The effect of Yang Guang's special agent politics was surprisingly good. On one hand, he recruited scholars from poor families to fill up the Secretariat Department, and on the other hand, he promoted the Secretariat Department, which was originally in charge of the Royal Library, to the Inner Court, which assisted the emperor in the administration of documents. On the other hand, he took over the 3 provinces and 6 ministries, and while maintaining the smooth flow of the central government's orders, he killed the 3 provinces and 6 ministries. Those eunuchs were really capable and cruel. If they only knew how to kill, the landowning households would have long ago forced Yang Guang to abdicate the throne or even remonstrated with the imperial court to purge the emperor's side. But under the leadership of Governor Tong Guan of the 2 depots, the eunuchs were highly efficient in their administration. They took over the government affairs and performed better than most of the officials, especially Tong Guan himself, who played with power, suppressed and roped in. There was nothing he did not know. He was also very competent in the affairs of the imperial court. In a short period of time, he had led the household attendant province to solidify its foundation and used all kinds of methods to fight for power with the landowning household. Such a vicious heart and talent were truly terrifying. That incapable emperor must be tired of living. He actually let a group of eunuchs rule. Even the son of a commoner can climb over our heads. Does he think that the people of this world are not loyal enough? Yuwenji only sneered. A mysterious smile appeared at the corner of his mouth and he said lightly, "My father will deal with such a perverse act. We just need to wait for the right time." Zhang Shurha nodded in agreement. Now that they were in the teeth of the storm, it was better to be cautious. Just as the two of them sat down and were about to have tea, a sudden noise came from the front yard of the Yuan family. It seemed that something had happened. Zhang Shurha got up and was about to go check it out. But before he could move, a person who looked like a bloody gourd appeared and threw himself at the two of them, crying. The person's body was covered in blood, and they could vaguely tell that it was a young man. He fell at Yuwenji's feet and cried, "Lord Yuwenji, the blood debt of the 89 members of the Yuchi family, please uphold justice." "Yuchi Sheng, why is it you?" "Yuchi Sheng is the chief of Yangzhou. Who can touch him? Did the rebel army break into Jiangdu?" Yuwenji's eyes flashed with a cold light. "It's the fatuous ruler." Yuchi Sheng gritted his teeth. "That fatuous ruler sent the eunuchs of the East faction guards to attack my Yuchi family at night. They killed my entire family, not even a dog or a parrot was spared. Now in Jiangdu, the eunuchs are in charge of the military and control the entire city. The subordinates who were loyal to my father either betrayed him or were killed by the eunuchs of the East faction guards." Yuchi Sheng yelled and kowtowed to Yuwenji. His forehead was dyed red with blood. "How is that possible?" Yuwenji said in disbelief. "How dare that fatuous ruler? How dare he? Without the approval of the Hall of Governmental Affairs, how dare this fatuous ruler kill an official? What crime did he use to kill your father?" Zhang Shurha did not care about anything else. He stepped forward and asked in a hurry. "The eunuch said that my great-uncle Yuchi Zhou had caused trouble when Yang Jian ascended to the throne. He said that my father was the descendant of a traitor who harbored evil intentions towards the former Zhou dynasty. The fatuous ruler ordered the entire family to be killed." Yuchi Sheng was sobbing. "What kind of reason is that?" Yuwenji slammed the table and stood up. He pointed to the sky and roared, "My Yuan family is the descendant of the Zhou dynasty's royal family. Did Yang Guang want to kill my entire family? I will definitely seek justice for you." "Is that really what General Yuan thinks?" A soft and sorrowful voice came from behind Yuwenji. "I'm just here to catch a fugitive. I didn't expect to hear such bold words from General Yuan." "How bold, how bold. You don't even respect the East faction guards at all." A eunuch in black leisurely came from the front yard with a dozen foreigners. The eunuch in front glanced at Yuchi Sheng, causing him to tremble uncontrollably. "It's him, it's him." Yuchi Sheng seemed to have woken up from a nightmare. He pointed at the eunuch and said, "Lu Jin. He was the one who brought people to kill my entire family. He used a thin knife to kill 13 of my family's highly skilled servants. In the end, he pierced through my father's chest. At that time, he was smiling like this." Yuchi Sheng's voice was filled with blood. Every word he said was heartbreaking. However, Lu Jin's smile did not change. He continued to look at Yuwenji calmly. "I wonder if you have any evidence to prove that Lord Yuchi Sheng is plotting a rebellion against the Zhou dynasty? If you don't blame me for being impolite. Today, I will definitely seek justice for Lord Yuchi Sheng in front of the Emperor. The Yuchi family is the pillar of the Sui dynasty. How can they be sentenced to death for some groundless crime?" Yuwenji's face was gloomy. His eyes were filled with murderous intent. His mystic ice force was concentrated in his palms. If Lu Jin's answer was even slightly wrong, he would be greeted with an earth-shattering attack. Lu Jin clapped his hands and a head was thrown out from behind him. It spun in the dust. "Sima Dikan?" Seeing the head, Yuwenji's expression changed drastically. "P.S. I caught a cold and felt a little dizzy. I wrote it in a hurry and changed it after I woke up." Chapter 326. Yang Guang's actions had caused countless people in the world to want to eat his flesh and sleep on his skin. There were countless experts in the rebel army, and the clans that wanted Yang Guang dead were even more powerful. There were also foreign races like Goryeo and Turks who wanted Yang Guang dead. The reason why Yang Guang was still alive was because of the Imperial Army commander Sima Dikan and the other Sui court expert. Today, Yu Huaji would not be surprised if anyone's head was placed there. Only Sima Dikan could make him so shocked. How could you kill him? Moreover, is Yang Guang not afraid of the Shaogua army's rebellion? Yu Huaji said with a trembling voice. A mere Sima Dikan? Do you think His Majesty really trusts him? His Majesty does not trust anyone. He is really bold and arrogant. He even dares to collude with your Yuan clan under the surveillance of our East military order. You want to use military force? You are really seeking death. As for the Shaogua army, don't you know that His Majesty has already reformed the military system and handed it over to Chief Supervisor Tong? Yu Huaji's mind had only been distracted for a moment. Now that he had calmed down and observed carefully, he indeed found some clues on Sima Dikan's body. On that head, Sima Dikan's expression was frozen in the moment before his death. Half of his hair and beard were standing on end as he roared and fought fiercely. Yu Huaji had seen him fight several times, and it was always this expression. The other half was dumbfounded with eyes wide open and an expression of disbelief. Yuanhua could see that Sima Dikan didn't have such an expression because he was poisoned, nor because he had been stabbed in the back. His death came very fast, so fast that he didn't even have the time to change his shocked expression before he was beheaded. Looking at his eyes after death, they did not slacken, but were tightly fixed on one point. Yuanji closed his eyes and tried to restore the might of this blade with his own martial arts cultivation. Sima Dikan had used a martial art from the battlefield, and his frontal attack was the strongest. It was almost invincible. Even if Yuanji were to fight against him, he would have to avoid the sharp edge and use the profound ice force to attack the flaws in his movement technique. However, the person who killed Sima Dikan had actually used a blade to attack the strongest point of Sima Dikan's frontal attack. From the cut on the neck, it seemed to be a thin, long saber. Its weight was certainly very light, and the edge of the saber was abnormally sharp. This was the only way it could pierce through the gaps between Sima Dikan's saber technique. Using most of his mind to simulate this scene, Yuanji's face was covered in more and more cold sweat. A terrified expression appeared on his face. He suddenly saw a flash of saber light coming at him. When he saw the saber light, he could already feel the cold light, like a light breeze blowing on his face. His strength was leaving him bit by bit. Before the expression on his face could change, he felt his body lighten, and he flew higher and higher into the air. A headless body. Whose body is that? Sima Dikan? Yuanhua's last bit of consciousness saw the appearance of the body. It was Yuanhua's body. Ah! Yuanhua screamed and woke up from the nightmare. Looking at Sima Dikan's head, he was so scared that he took a few steps back. His face was full of fear. At this time, he didn't even care about Yuchi Canton. His left and right hands were nervously waving in front of him, and he subconsciously touched his neck. Only when he felt the warm breath of life did he wake up from his nightmare. Who is it? Who killed him? Is it your chief superintendent Tong Guan? Yuanhua pointed at the head on the ground and asked. Lu Jin smiled faintly. It seems like the stream of saber chi left by our saber had scared General Yuan. Who is Chief Superintendent Tong? Why would she kill someone like Sima Dikan personally? Of course it was me who killed him. Ha 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 ha. It is your Yuan family's leader, Yuan Shang, who is worthy of Chief Superintendent's attention. Lu Jin seemed to be shy and timid as he glanced at Yuanhua and said with a smile, General Yuan, my brother Yuan Jiji is still in the prison of our East Order faction because he colluded with Sima Dikan. Today, during the morning assembly, His Majesty would like to ask your Yuan family personally, do you want to die? He imitated Yang Guang's tone when he said the last sentence. The demonic aura in it was monstrous. Even though it was only a small imitation, it was still enough to make Zhang Shurha wet his pants. Seeing this, Lu Jin laughed out loud. He and the East faction guards behind him unsheathed the thin sabers on their waists and said sternly, Yuanhua, are you going to hand over the imperial court criminal today? If you don't blame me for being merciless. Yuanhua didn't hesitate at all, and pulled out the long saber from the rack beside him. The East Order faction soldiers all unsheathed their sabers at the same time, but they were stopped by Lu Jin. Yuanhua's saber flashed and beheaded Yuchi Canton beside him. The blood splattered on his face, making him look like a demon. Zhang Shurha was so frightened by this turn of events that he didn't know what to do. He was stunned on the spot. Picking up the head of his old friend's son, Yuanhua personally offered it up and said, Huaji didn't know the inside story and was deceived by that despicable person, ruining your plans. Men, offer 100 taels of gold as an apology. Ah! Lu Jin laughed loudly and said, Yuanhua, how are you? You are very good. With a wave of his sleeve, he accepted the 100 taels of gold from the Yuan family with a smile. Lu Jin had the soldiers pick up the 2 heads on the ground and prepared to leave the Yuan family. Before he left, he turned back to look at Yuanhua, who didn't even wipe off the blood on his face. He smiled and said, General Yuan, take care. His Majesty's tolerance is not without limits. We are only a saber for His Majesty and Chief Supervisor Tong. A saber should not have its own will. After the eunuchs of the East Order faction left, everyone in the Yuan family felt as if they had just survived a disaster. The servants were so scared that they collapsed to the ground. Even the Yuan private soldiers, who were experienced on the battlefield, felt ashamed and scared. Looking at his family, soldiers, and even Zhang Shurha's faces, Yuanji fell silent. His family members, soldiers, and even Zhang Shurha all had frightened expressions on their faces. The East Order faction's despotic power has reached this level? Men, prepare the horse. I want to go to the Yuan family mansion, Yuanhua shouted loudly. But General, the court is about to begin. Looking at the fear in the eyes of the family members who were leading the horse, Yuanhua suddenly wanted to laugh out loud. Since when did the Yuan family care about such things? Since when did his family and servants remind him of the morning court? In just a short period of time, the East Order faction had cast a shadow on them to such an extent. I will go to court directly from my uncle's place. The Yuan family is not to be trifled with. Yuanhua mounted the horse and whipped it, leaving a cloud of dust behind. The sound of the horse's hooves echoed on the yellow official road, heading toward the old mansion. The sun peeked out a little from the east. The morning glow was bright red like fire and blood. Within the great Sui imperial city, the heavy gate was pushed open by 2 rows of soldiers. To be continued. Chapter 327. The leader of Yuan clan, Yuan Shang, had his eyes half closed, as if he had fallen into some kind of reverie. He focused on martial arts, and together with Song Ke, they were the top 2 martial artists below Ning Daoqi in Middle-earth. Although they were powerful, they had never been involved in politics. They had left all the power of Yuan clan to his nephew, Yuan Wenji. However, he himself was a stabilizing force for Yuan clan. He could not be underestimated. Huaji, you have lost this time. He sighed. Since Yang Guang has taken control of Daxing, and the eunuchs of the East and West faction have eyes and ears everywhere in the 2 capitals, you no longer have any chance in Daxing. Right now, the only chance of survival is outside the capital. Although the East and West faction are arrogant, the world is still the world of the aristocratic families. Most of the managers and military leaders are from aristocratic families. The power of our Yuan clan lies in the reputation of the aristocratic families. Yang Guang can destroy our foundation, but he cannot destroy the aristocratic families, let alone our reputation and relationship. Uncle, are you asking me to admit defeat? Yang Guang will not trust us anymore. Now that we are trapped in Daxing, are we just going to let our foundation rot and let Yang Guang kill the loyal officials of Great Zhou? Yuan Wenji raised his head and asked, unwilling to give up. Yuan Shang sighed. The rise and fall of aristocratic families are normal. As long as Yuan clan protects itself, Yang Guang will not do anything to us. When the world is strong again, there will be a day when we can rise again. Why should we care about the temporary gains and losses? 1,000-year-old aristocratic family, 100-year-old dynasty. Huaji, you are not far-sighted enough. We are not at the end of the road yet, Yuan Wenji said coldly. Right now, the morale of the armies in Daxing is not stable yet. They are only temporarily following Yang Guang, and that incapable ruler has destroyed his own foundation. Right now, other than those damned eunuchs, there is no longer any power under Yang Guang's control. He mobilized all the armies outside the city and guarded the gate, but this exposed the emptiness of the city. Right now, the Dugu clan is also dissatisfied with Yang Guang. Why don't we work together? Huaji! Yuan Shang stopped him. Tong Guan's martial arts are so powerful that even I can't see through him. The power of the East and West faction is no weaker than us. Without the slightest chance, we can't bet the lives of the entire Yuan clan on a plan. Are we just going to watch Gigi die? Uncle, today that fatuous emperor can put Gigi in the death cell. Tomorrow he can attack Chengdu and Wudi. At that time, how are we going to save them? Yuan Ji asked in a trembling voice. Besides, Dugufeng has also sent a letter. He took out a secret letter and handed it to Yuan Shang. Dugufeng is the commander of the Imperial Army, in charge of the Imperial Guards, Cavalry Guards, Martial Guards, Garrison Guards, Imperial Guards, and Marquis Guards. There are a total of 6,000 people, and they are the most important guards in the Imperial City. His brother, Dugusheng, is an expert that Yang Guang easily trusts. Our strength has already far surpassed that of the Eastern and Western workshop. Although those damned eunuchs are savage, after all, they have only been established for a few months. How many kung fu experts can they have? The sky outside the window was already bright. Yuan Shang said tiredly, I will go to court with you. Chengdu and Wudi will stay in the hiding place we have prepared. If we die, you guys just burn down the Yuan clan and protect Chengdu and Shiji as they go to Taiyuan to seek refuge with the Li clan. The sky was bright, and the officials who came for the court had already gathered outside the imperial city. After the failure of the 3 expeditions to Korea, the Sui dynasty was in flames, and Yang Guang was addicted to wine and women. It was rare for him to have a morning court. Moreover, he had recently established the Eastern and Western workshops, and he had gone against the rules and killed the officials. This caused the officials' hearts to waver, and public opinion was boiling. Although this morning court was rather chaotic, it could be seen that the officials were divided into groups of 5, representing different forces. The largest group was the eunuchs' party behind Yushiji. Yushiji had basically obtained his position by flattering the emperor, and he represented Yang Guang's confidant. Among the officials, those who wanted to flatter him were all trying to curry favor with him. Recently, he had allied with the powerful Eastern and Western workshops, so his power was the largest. Next was Yuan Ji, who was on good terms with the Yuan clan, or who was loyal to the Yuan clan. Next was Pei Yun and Su Wei, who represented Qing Lu and Pei Ju. Their numbers were also very large, and together, they were the largest group among the 5. Finally, there were the officials behind Dugufeng, who were trying to curry favor with the Dugu clan. Their numbers were relatively small, but only those who truly understood the situation knew that this was to prevent Yang Guang from being afraid. Otherwise, their power in the court would be even greater than the Yuan clan. With a heavy creaking sound, the guards pushed open the palace door to the royal court, revealing the steps leading up to the royal court. The sergeants of the 12 guards stood on both sides, arranged in a row on the wide square in front of the main hall, exuding a solemn aura. Dugu Feng and Yuanji exchanged glances, and they led the officials behind them up the steps. Yang Guang sat on the dragon throne, and his aura was like the netherworld. Even with his eyes closed, he looked like an evil dragon that was about to devour someone. The hall, which was hundreds of meters long and wide, was shrouded in a demonic aura. It was strange and ever-changing. The court was supposed to be open and above-board, but it was like the temple of Yenluo, dark, cold, and silent. Dozens of figures dressed in the clothes of servants stood on both sides of the hall. They were the backbone of the East and West faction. Tong Guan had changed into the clothes of a servant, and he stood next to Yang Guang in the shadows. Wang Shichong of Luoyang, is he not willing to come? Forget it, I will spare his life, but I still have to wait for the saintess of the Zihong Quiet House to come to Luoyang. I am waiting for them to choose the emperor. Didn't I hold back and not deal with those old bald donkeys from Jingyan Monastery to lure them here? If one he sure by is not enough, I will add on Yang Su's treasury. I want all the rebels in the world to gather in Luoyang. Your Majesty, the news of He Sure Bai and Yang Su's treasury has spread. I believe the people from the Zihong Quiet House have already noticed that something is wrong. The people from the demon sect also know that the evil emperor's relic has been placed in the treasury by Lu Miaozi. With the dark sunflower faction and the omniscient sect coming, I am not afraid that both the righteous and evil sects will not gather in Luoyang, Tong Guan said softly. Very good. This time, we will be able to eradicate most of the unstable forces in the world. Without those backbone leaders, the rebels will have their backbone removed. Choose the emperor. Why don't we elect Yenluo? Yang Guang sneered. Yuanji stepped into the main hall and saw Yang Guang's appearance from afar. His hands could not help but tremble. The current Yang Guang did not look the same as before he gave him the heavenly demonic stone. The exhaustion from indulging in wine and women had disappeared from his face. His body was tall and strong, and even his appearance had returned to when he was young. But what shocked him the most was the terrifying aura from Yang Guang's body. Demonic flames filled the sky. There were ferocious demons everywhere in the main hall. The faces of the servants hidden in the darkness were as mysterious as ghosts. Yuanji swept his gaze across their faces. Wang Zhen, Wang Ji, Lu Jin, Wei Zhongxian, Wang Qinzhen, Chao Huachun, Cao Suiyan, Feng Bao, Gu Deong, Yu Huatian, Zheng He, Chao Ren, Dong Haichuan. The Duda chiefs of the eastern and western depots were all standing there. Behind them, there were countless foreigners with their heads lowered. It seemed like all the eunuchs of the inner servants' province were present. Yuanji felt a chill in his heart. Chapter 328. As an important place in the imperial court, the hall was majestic and exquisite. It was several hundred meters in length, making the front very spacious. Even if there were thousands of people gathered here, it wouldn't feel crowded at all. Giant dragon pillars that would take 5 people to wrap their arms around held up the roof of the hall that was almost 15 meters high. The dragon throne above the crowd was a display of the majesty of the imperial power. Yuanji felt a heavy pressure on his back the moment he stepped into the hall. It was as if he was going up against a towering mountain. His uncle Yuan Shang came to his side. Although Yuan Shang didn't say anything, Yuanji could tell from his expression and figure that he was no longer confident in this battle. Huaji, run when I attack His Majesty later. Yuan Shang's tone was very dry. He didn't even dare to call Yang Guang a fatuous ruler and called him His Majesty instead. Yuanji didn't notice this at all. He pulled Yuan Shang's sleeve and said in shock, "Uncle, you're the #1 expert of great sway. Are you not confident?" "I'm not the #1 expert. In this hall, the number of people I'm not confident in attacking can be counted on 2 hands." Yuan Shang sighed and said, "Even that Tong Gonggong by His Majesty's side is frighteningly skilled. I have never seen such a person in my life, not to mention that His Majesty himself is a top-notch expert. How is this possible? Yuanji couldn't believe it. Yuan Shang only advised him, Huaji, you're right. His Majesty really doesn't want to let the Yuan clan live. Killing the chicken to warn the monkey, we are the chicken. The chicken's will is irrelevant, so whether I make a move or not, His Majesty's thunderous strike will be welcomed to intimidate all the rebels. This will be an unprecedented battle in the martial Dao. I only hope you, Huaji, run. A young eunuch stood in front of the Yuan clan and said softly, Clan Lord, His Majesty is summoning you. Yuan Shang's body shook. He looked at the eunuch's mysterious movement and said with a shaky voice, Eunuch, may I know your name? West Faction Guards, Yu Huatian. The handsome eunuch smiled slightly and made an inviting gesture with his hand. Yuan Shang lowered his eyes and sighed softly. Just by looking at Gong Gong's movements, I can tell that there are countless experts in the West Faction Guard. People always said that I have mastered the mysterious ice power, a martial art that only I have mastered in the Yuan clan, and that I am already the most powerful warrior among the young generation. But today when I saw you, I realized it. He still has a long way to go. Yuan Shang turned his head once more, sending a final message to Yuanhua. Seize the opportunity and run. Borrowing his own sigh, he told Yuanji the last piece of information he saw. There were dozens of eunuchs in the main hall, and every one of them was more skilled than Yuanji. The situation was hopeless, and he had to escape. Yang Guang stood on the dragon platform. His eyes flickered, and no one knew what he was thinking. It was only when Yuan Shang arrived in front of him that he came back to his senses. He chuckled and said, Yuan Qing, I heard that the leader of the White Path, Zihong Jing House, is holding the Heshabi Jade to control the orthodoxy of the world. In a few days, they will choose the Son of Heaven for the common people of the world in Luoyang. They will uphold the righteous path and pacify the chaotic world. As the Son of Heaven, I am also very curious about the so-called way of the Son of Heaven. Today, Duguyuan, the two pillars of the nation, are here. I would like to hear your way of the world. The way of the world is upheld by the Son of Heaven. I dare not overstep it, Yuan Shang declined cautiously. Yang Guang laughed. He flicked his sleeves and stood up, leaning on the dragon throne. He said, It's all right. It is the virtue of the ancient holy king to ask the ministers for advice. It is the duty of a minister to offer advice to the king. It is not overstepping it. The way of the world is described by the predecessors. We are incompetent and cannot escape the way of the saint. Now that the world is in chaos, the people are divided. However, the previous dynasty still has some virtue, and the aristocratic families have not dispersed. If your Majesty is willing to set an example by criticizing the malpractices of the past and pursuing the way of reducing extravagance and saving costs by seeking peace, ending the revolution, giving virtue and giving benefits, everyone will be of one mind. The response of the people will be loud, and it will not take long for the people from afar to be convinced. Yuan Shang spoke leisurely. Although he didn't say anything earth-shattering, every word and sentence was like the teachings of a saint. He was upright and impartial, showing his sincerity. Not only did Dugu Sheng and the others secretly nod their heads, even the Clearstream faction behind Su Wei faintly agreed. Even the loyal ministers who disliked the ambition of the Yuan family had to admit that Yuan Shang, the head of the Yuan family, was indeed different from his ambitious nephew. He was still loyal to the great Sui. He thought to himself, Yuan Shang's words are wise. If your Majesty listens to him and cleans up the court, everyone will be of one mind. It may not be impossible to revive the great Sui, thanks to Emperor Wen's virtue. It's a pity that your Majesty is violent. I'm afraid Yuan Shang's words will not be tolerated by your Majesty. Boring. These are all old words, not your true thoughts. There are 3 disadvantages to the great Sui. First, the world's aristocratic families prosper. They monopolize the official career and power, making the land around the world the property of the aristocratic families. The poor people have no way to survive. Why? The land in the world is less than the population. The power of the 9 states cannot provide for the people. The more the aristocratic families advance, the more the people retreat. They have no choice but to rise up. Therefore, instead of criticizing the disadvantages, it is better to kill the aristocratic families. Kill until the 9 states are overturned and blood flows. The land around the world will be emptied, and there will be no more aristocratic families left. Then, heroes will be born to conquer the world, and the country will be ruled for hundreds of years. This is the beginning and end of the 5 elements and the replacement of the 5 virtues. It can continue the orthodoxy and preserve China. As soon as Yang Guang said this, the minister's expressions changed. Yuan clan and Duguxing's faces turned pale. The air was covered with a thick smell of blood. If there is any misfortune, the Central Plains will bleed so much that the foreign races will invade. The Han dynasty will no longer exist, and the Turks will rule the world. The chaos of the 5 barbarians will repeat. Ministers and the aristocratic families will bear the humiliation and bow to the foreign races. We will corrupt the barbarians and the foreign races so that they will believe in Confucius and Mencius. We will use the aristocratic families to build a dynasty. When the next cycle comes, we will plan to support the Han dynasty. I can't bear to do this. Yang Guang sighed. He faced the frightened ministers and said, I have a suggestion. Now that the Sui dynasty is about to be overturned, in order to prevent the foreign races from invading, the Sui dynasty will sacrifice itself. We will invade Goryeo in the east and kill the Turks in the west. We will destroy the Sui dynasty and cause the foreign races in the north and south to bleed. We will cause chaos everywhere and cause the extinction of the foreign races. When the heroes of the world fight, less blood will be shed. Isn't this a meritorious service to the world? Before he finished, his voice shook the world. Duguan was so shocked that he felt dizzy. The ministers were at a loss and felt their limbs go weak. P.S. Just finished writing. It was originally a martial arts novel, but I wrote too much about politics, so I am going to rewrite it. This chapter will be replaced after I finish writing it. Everyone, just refresh it. Readers on mobile can download it again. You should see the new chapter tomorrow morning. To be continued. Chapter 329. Hearing Yang Guang's words, all the officials on the scene were shocked. Many of the old officials who were loyal to the Great Sui felt that they were hallucinating and fell to the ground. The people of the Yuan clan and the Dugu clan were also at a loss because of Yang Guang's shocking words. The Qinglu, led by Su Wei, felt their hands and feet go cold. They stared blankly at Yang Guang, who was sitting on the dragon throne, with contempt. Emperor Zhou. Su Wei pointed at Yang Guang and said, Emperor Zhou. Yang Guang walked down the stage step by step and snorted, Do you think I will play the role of a wise ruler and a virtuous official with you? Divide the benefits with you and fight for power? Too slow. Too slow. It's too slow to allow the world to slowly change and for me to push forward and reform the system bit by bit. I have never been a patient person. For the sake of building my ideal country, I ask all of you to die. Yang Guang arrived in front of Su Wei and covered his head with his palm. The heavenly demon-devouring soul took away all of his self-consciousness, and then changed it according to his will. With the infusion of devil chi and life essence, the life potential of the old man under his palm rapidly surged, and his hair visibly turned black. Fatuous ruler, let go of Sir Su. Yuan Huaji let out a loud shout, seizing this rare opportunity to make his move. He raised his mysterious ice force, and a layer of cold true qi appeared on his palms. The true qi in his hands twisted and turned freely, and combined with his movement skill, it could be said to have an unfathomable power. He used the officials as a cover and avoided the eunuchs. He shook his wrist, and at the same time, his palm force was like a dragon spitting out pearls, drawing an arc in the air, and quickly approaching Yang Guang's chest. He used Su Wei as a shield and activated the mysterious ice force to 120%. When he struck out, the air was faintly covered with frost. However, this cold vital chi was not his real killer move. The twisting and turning and the sharp and cold palm force was the real power. If his skin was numbed by the cold true chi of the mysterious ice force, it would be easy for him to be confused by Yuanhua's cold and domineering will, and lose the ability to judge the palm force in a trance. All of this happened in a split second. Before Yuanhua finished his sentence, his palm was about to land on Yang Guang's chest. Before anyone could react, his uncle Yuanshang shouted, "Watch out!" A ghostly shadow flashed beside Yang Guang. Yuanshang opened his hands weakly and said the last 4 words, "Watch out, Huaji." Yu Huatian slowly retracted his short sword and wiped the blood off it. He took a step back and returned to his position. Yuan Huaji's body brushed past Yang Guang and landed on the main hall. The smell of blood came with the wind, but Yang Guang's expression didn't change. He didn't even move his eyes. It was as if he had never seen this person before. Just when Yang Guang's hand left Su Wei's face, Su Wei knelt in front of Yang Guang's and bowed, Guang said. He raised his head, but it was the face of an unfamiliar young scholar. Everyone who saw this felt a chill rise in their hearts, and fear spread from the depths of their hearts. No one was willing to become someone else under Yang Guang. They would rather die. Fatuous ruler, if you do this, someone will punish you. Yuan Shang pointed at Yang Guang and shouted. I don't care. I don't care even if all of you come together. Just like how you don't care about the voice of a commoner, life, death, wealth, and even your thoughts are in my hands. Great Sui only needs one voice. Yang Guang calmly extended his right hand and said, Hurry up. Later, when the heavenly demon soul devouring is used, you will not have the will to resist. Give them the weapons. Yang Guang walked back to the high platform and said to the servant beside him. He casually extended his left hand and sucked at Yuanhua's body from a few feet away. Under the heavenly demon for corrosion, the body quickly shriveled. The blood and flesh essence turned into demonic energy and flew into Yang Guang's body. There was only a puff of green smoke. Standing on the high platform, Yang Guang looked down at everyone. Right now, most of the aristocratic families in the Central Plains are here, and all the elites in Daxing City have been invited here by me. Now I'll give you a choice. Either you plant a demonic seed in your body and turn into a demon, and you join me, or pick up the weapons in front of you, bring out all the power you have in your entire life, and show me your beliefs. Yuan Shang raised the long spear in his hand and stood side by side with Dugu Feng and Dugu Sheng. Suddenly, a violent coughing sound came from behind them. A stooped old lady with white hair and a pair of eyes that were half covered by her eyelids appeared to be blind. Her face was covered with deep wrinkles, but she still had the air of an aristocrat. She held a jasper-like walking stick, and her breath was unstable. She struggled to breathe and said, Everyone, the martial world, the imperial court, and even the world will welcome a great calamity. The emperor's demonic arts have reached perfection. If we cannot stop him today, the world is destined to bleed, and the tragedy will be 10 times worse than the current chaotic world. This old man will drag this broken body to assassinate the demon emperor here. Dugu and Yuan clan have been fighting for many years, and I did not think that we would join hands to fight the enemy today. But today, I am afraid that the 3 of us will not be able to leave this place alive. Jing Ku assassinated the Qin emperor, and the white rainbow pierced the sun. Today we will assassinate the tyrant Yang Guang. Even if we die, we will encourage the righteous of the world to eliminate the demon and protect the righteous. Yuan Shang waved his long spear and laughed. What the 2 of them didn't expect was that an unarmed middle-aged man was also standing with them. Even the aloof Yang Guang could not help but frown. Shen Guang? You also want to assassinate me? The ordinary-looking Shen Guang cupped his fists and said, Your Majesty has treated me with great kindness, and Shen Guang wants to repay it with his life. But Your Majesty's temperament has changed so much that I cannot help but be suspicious. Shen Guang only wants to know if Your Majesty is still the same Your Majesty. If you are, even if Your Majesty becomes a demon, Shen Guang vows to follow Your Majesty to kill these 3 traitors. Shen Guang, you don't know what's good for you, Du Guxing said angrily. But he was stopped by Yu Chuhong. She looked at Shen Guang and sighed. Flesh-flying immortal Shen Guang, back then you attacked Fu Keilin many times and forced him into a dead end. I already know that you are the strongest expert in the imperial court. This old woman and Yuan Shang are not as good as you. It is only because of your loyalty to Yang Guang that you are despised by the world. But today is a war between humans and demons. Do you also want to stand on the side of Demon King Yang Guang? If the Demon King is Your Majesty, why not? Shen Guang sneered. Or do I want to learn from you traitors and go against my superiors? Shen Guang, step down for now. The 4 of you together will find it difficult to use each other's strength, and I will not be able to enjoy myself. Wait until I kill them in the palace, then I will talk to you. Yang Guang felt a headache. I did not expect that a tyrant like me would have someone loyal to me. But what if I am Yang Guang? Or primordial sky demon Chen Ong? Am I still Yang Guang? Yang Guang sighed. His mind could not help but be in a trance for a moment. The demon qi and demon flame surrounding his body, which had always been perfect, could not help but show a trace of weakness. Good chance. Yu Chuhong's eyes lit up. Her body had already turned into a shadow and pounced forward. Chapter 330. The jasper staff in her hand was about 5 feet long and shaped like a bamboo branch. In Yu Chuhong's hand, it was the best weapon to use for the cloaking staff technique. The cloaking staff technique was a unique skill created by Yu Chuhong when she was 60 years old. It was different from the Tang dynasty's martial arts system. The true qi was mainly channeled through the 12 meridians and supplemented by the 8 meridians. It was the opposite of most of the inner qi that focused on the 8 meridians. Due to the imbalance between the 12 meridians and the 8 meridians, it injured the lung and kidney meridians. She almost suffered from qi deviation. Although she managed to save herself in time, there were still repercussions. But at this moment, Yu Chuhong's spirit had reached a peak. That green bamboo stick seemed to be entrusted with all her spirit, faith, and even obsession. The zhenqi accumulated to the peak could even suppress her asthma. Genuine qi rolled in the 12 standard meridians, bringing along all the qi and blood in Yu Chuhong's aged body. Following the wind-splitting staff technique, she flicked the jasper staff in a straight line. The momentum was swift and fierce. The flexible jasper staff trembled slightly. Not only did this round force not slow down the speed of the flick, but it also accumulated the force, making it even more unpredictable. The strike had the power to split mountains. But if Yang Guang dared to dodge, the slightly trembling jasper staff technique would twist like a spring. Mixed with the accumulated strength, it would twist and release an even more terrifying strike. But the opponent was Yang Guang. The fierce devil qi in Yang Guang's hand condensed into a sharp blade. He casually grabbed at Yu Chuhong, who was rushing towards him. The power of the sky devil claw came out of his body. The 5 fingers carried a mysterious force that targeted at the human body. It was cold, suffocating, hot, poisonous, and moist. It carried the ferocity of evil qi and the corrosive invasion of devil qi. Combining the essence of evil, poison, disease, plague, and devil in the 5 ghosts' heavenly demon skill, it was like 5 ghosts appeared out of thin air and grabbed through Yu Chuhong's body. The force of the claw carried her vital qi, genuine qi, and even her spirit out of her body. All that was left was a shell that stood rooted to the ground. The jasper staff in her hand flew out of her hand and fell to the ground 2 steps away from Yang Guang. "Grandma!" A clear female voice cried out in pain. Hearing this voice, Dugu Feng's expression changed greatly. Ignoring Dugu Sheng and Dugu Feng, he turned around and shouted, "Feng run!" It was this 1 step's difference that allowed him to witness Dugu Sheng's body being pierced by the Sky Demon Claw's remnant force before his very eyes, causing him to die a miserable death on the stage. There were even more experts rushing up from the courtyard. The guards acted as though they couldn't see them and allowed them to attack Yang Guang. Many experts from the aristocratic families attacked Yang Guang from the dragon platform. Fu Zhuanzhu's assassination of Wang Liao was like a comet attacking the moon. Nie Zheng's assassination of Han Qiao was like a white rainbow piercing the sun. Yao Li's assassination of Qing Ji was like a hawk striking the palace hall. With the spirit of a common man, he held his sword up high in the hall and sprinkled his blood on the king's face, not forgetting the spirit of loyalty. There was an old man with a gray head, holding a scepter, using this old man's strength to strike Yang Guang's face. With Yuan Shang's righteous aura and unparalleled might, he ignited all of his power and unleashed the most resplendent attack of his life, the shooting star stab. Yang Guang's ferocious might stained the blue sky. In front of the remaining 100 officials and scholars, a fierce aura burst forth, and the Sky Demon Claw's power surged. The scattered energy even pierced through the main hall and splashed in front of the 12 guards. On that day, 127 scholars were stained with blood. Yang Guang sat on the blood-red dragon throne. Under the invasion of the demonic aura, the blood around him had already turned into dust. Huang Chang and Tong Guan stood beside him. The main hall above his head had been pierced through by the Sky Demon Claw, allowing the moonlight to shine directly on Yang Guang's body. At this moment, his consciousness was a little chaotic. In his mind, the memories belonging to Yang Guang were slowly fading away. Now, the last trace of sorrow had also dissipated. Looking at Yang Guang's clear eyes, Tong Guan bowed slightly. "Congratulations, Commander, for abandoning Yang Guang's distracting thoughts and returning." I'm not Chinong. I don't know how many messy settings Yang Guang added to the supreme Wang Qing scripture. When he inherited my consciousness, he also came into contact with the other 2 consciousnesses sealed in the mysterious universe. Although we worked together to trick him, we also messed up this new personality. I'm also very helpless. Yang Guang sighed. Right now, this world is just a corner of a huge plane system. The main consciousness, Chunong, wants to use the mysterious universe as a carrier to hide from the surveillance laws of this space-time and smuggle into the core of the plane system. Meanwhile, the will of China wants to rebuild the Republic of China here, while Sargeras still wants to destroy and collapse everything. And it's hard for me, who carries their consciousnesses, not to go crazy. But fortunately, neither the will of China nor the main consciousness agrees with this social system. Inheriting the negative emotions of destruction from Sargeras, I can still unify them in certain aspects. That's how I was born, the primordial sky demon. I hate all the injustices in the world, hate the Buddhists, hate the aristocratic families, and try to destroy the old world and rebuild the new world in flames. I hope that everyone in the world is like a demon, enjoying life freely, playing freely, democracy and equality. Yang Guang's eyes were deep, and the demonic aura around him became fierce again. He got up from the dragon throne and looked at the 2 generals beside him. "From now on, don't call me governor. Now I am Yang Guang." Huang Chang's eyes were a little hesitant. He opened his mouth a few times, but found it difficult to speak. Finally, he glanced at the ruins of the Sui assassination during the day and made up his mind. He asked Yang Guang, "Your Majesty, there's no need to be so urgent about unifying the world and rebuilding the divine continent. If you're so eager for quick success, I'm afraid you've killed too many people. This is a sin." Yang Guang glanced at the bloodstains on the ground and said with his hands behind his back, "Many of the people who died here can be considered as people with lofty ideals and outstanding talents. From each other's point of view, they are not at fault. It's just that their standpoints are different. In the process of destroying the old world, not only will we clean up those stupid sinners, but we will also destroy those relatively good things. But this is the inevitable price of the world's progress and rebuilding the world. I am the primordial sky demon. Not only can I bear the burden of all living beings, but I can also bear such sins." "Tong Guan," Yang Guang suddenly ordered. "Yes, Your Majesty." Tong Guan bowed his head. "Order the East and West depots. Spread the word that during the 15th Peony Flower Festival, the Ci Hang Jing House will look for a son of heaven among the heroes of the world who can be entrusted to the people. They will hand over the He's Jade and Yang Su's treasury. You don't have to care about the 8 sects and 10 societies of the world who are going to Luoyang. But for those who don't, kill them all." "Yes, Your Majesty," Tong Guan answered. Huang Chang hurriedly bowed and said, "Your Majesty, bring some people to the Pegasus farm and bring Lu Miaozi back. Take control of the entire Pegasus farm. Then, go to the Eastern Peak sect and take control of it. At the same time, you're responsible for building the force you lead. Search for skilled craftsmen in the world and fill the ranks of the craftsman supervisor." Chapter 331. Shen Guang narrowed his eyes as he looked at Yang Guang, who was standing in front of him. Although Yang Guang looked no different from before, his temperament and actions were no different from the muddle-headed ruler that people once spoke of. Shen Guang had personally witnessed him wiping out the ambitions of all the aristocratic families in Dexing City in the main hall yesterday. The ferocity of his actions was hard to describe. The only explanation was that from that night onwards, everyone who had witnessed the entire scene with their own eyes had buried their little thoughts deeply. This was because they were certain that all of their schemes and plans would be crushed by this extremely tyrannical power. "We have heard a new rumor in Dexing City. They say that we are a hidden expert of the demon sect, cruel and terrifying. They say that we have secretly killed Yang Guang and changed into his appearance to take over the world." Yang Guang walked in the palace, looking at the lake in the imperial garden with Shen Guang as he asked. His expression was extremely calm, but Shen Guang could hear a thick stench of blood from between the lines that were lacking in emotion. What a good herd! Even the 2 factories could hear this news. Then the people who spread this news, which was the them in Yang Guang's words, were probably now under the service of the 2 factories, crying and regretting their slip of the tongue. This official does not know if it is true or false. Shen Guang raised his head and looked at Yang Guang with a burning gaze. "I think Dugafeng, Yuwenji and the others also do not dare to investigate the truth. In this Dexing City, the officials and aristocrats do not care about the truth. They are only afraid of Your Majesty's martial arts and the eyes and ears of the 2 factories. But this official cares. Eternal fame, but death is all it takes." In the main hall, there were more than 100 scholars who died defending righteousness. How would Shen Guang not dare to repay Your Majesty's kindness? "Good, very good." Yang Guang laughed. "Since you have this determination, how can I not satisfy you?" He took a few steps forward and stood on a step. He turned his head and looked down at Shen Guang. "Changing my appearance is naturally a laughable speculation. But to say that I am the Yang Guang of the past, it is also extremely laughable. Let me ask you, how can a person change into another person's appearance? It could be a substitution, a great change, or it could be someone else. However, Your Majesty is not one of the latter 2, because no matter what kind of fusion you encounter, it is impossible for Your Majesty to completely change your temperament in such a short period of time, and it is even more impossible for you to attain such a high level of martial arts." Shen Guang took a step forward and said resolutely, "Unless it's to change one's temperament. That's the price of mastering this martial art. Yang Guang chuckled. Have you ever tried to apply a spell on yourself, little by little? Believing that he was another person, imagining his memories and emotions, experiencing his experiences, and completely immersing himself in forging another personality. At the same time, I erased my past emotions bit by bit, slaughtered my loved ones, and trampled on all the beautiful memories until they paled, until I became indifferent. This is the secret of my strength. Killing Yang Guang will cause the primordial demon to be reborn. Inside my body, Yang Guang and the primordial demon will become 1-inch. Minister Shun, there must be something in your heart that you can't forget, someone you care about greatly. If we destroy it, how would you feel? Excruciating pain. My heart is about to break. What if I let you try not to care? I can't do that. Yang Guang spoke in a low voice. I'll tell you how to do it. Remember the feeling of the person you love being destroyed, then repeat it 10,000 times until you become numb to it. Then use a powerful mental secret technique to cleanse it over and over again, until all that's left is your memories and nothing else. Of course, you can also choose to entrust a strand of your obsession. This way, you'll have a good foundation, and on this foundation, you can reforge a new you. If you polish it well enough, you can become anyone, and possess his power. He returned to his calm gaze and asked softly, Now, do you think I'm Yang Guang? Shen Guang thought that he had nothing to fear, but now he still felt a chill run down his spine. The martial art that Yang Guang spoke of was much less bloody and cruel compared to the many demonic arts that he had seen before. But it was the cruelest, most evil, and most terrifying martial art that he knew of. The Dao Heart Demon Seed was like a child's play compared to it. Compared to it, the Sunflower Treasured Book was also less ferocious. This was because this martial art displayed its cruelty to oneself to the extreme. It was simply using a kind of extraordinary wisdom to erase and torture oneself, almost exhausting all the pain that humans could accept. Shen Guang was sweating profusely as he struggled. Tong Guan Eunuch Tom? He's also a person that I created using this martial art. You might be more familiar with his original form. It's that eunuch Wei beside me, Wei Lianxiang, those experts from the eastern and western depots? They're all the same. Didn't you notice that the number of eunuchs in the palace has decreased by so much? Yang Guang looked at Shen Guang, who was in a trance and had a ferocious expression, and added, They're just recipients, so they can't obtain the strongest power. Only those who truly dare to erase themselves can cultivate this martial art to the highest level. The number of people who have cultivated the revered Wang Qing chapter is equivalent to the number of revered one. I was lucky to obtain the inheritance of the primordial heavenly demon in the demonic stone, fuse with the heavenly demon, and achieve the primordial heavenly demon fruit. If others cultivated this martial art, they would eventually be erased and become the shell of the revered one. Shen Guang struggled between heaven and man, thinking about the three ultimate questions of humankind. Who was I? Where did I come from? Where was I going? This was an interrogation of the self, and it was a reflection of the self in the Buddhist scriptures. Whether Yang Guang was still Yang Guang or not, Shen Guang did not know how many times he had struggled with this question. In the absence of scientific help and definition, he could only resort to philosophy. Then he was completely lost. Is His Majesty still His Majesty? Am I still me? Shen Guang exhausted his mental strength in just a few moments. Under the entanglement of true qi and spirit, his entire body was exhausted, and he was almost at the end of his rope. Of course, this was also related to the part of the revered one that Yang Guang had given him. The final three questions of philosophy that carried the consciousness of Chen Ong was not only an extremely mysterious martial art that surpassed all the divine martial arts in Yang Guang's memory, but it was also a scientific research result on human consciousness, soul, and self. However, in another important aspect, it was also extremely self-centered. It had reached the point where everyone except for Chen Ong would go crazy. Seeing that Shen Guang's life potential was about to be exhausted, and at that time, the best outcome would be to become a fool, Shen Guang mustered a trace of clarity, and according to the method recorded in the Revered One, erased all traces and doubts about Yang Guang, and reconstructed himself. He almost collapsed to the ground and knelt before Yang Guang. "Your Majesty, I pay my respects." Chapter 332. Walking under the palace, Yang Guang admired the underground palace that had almost hollowed out the palace and the palace from a bystander's perspective. This was a three-dimensional city. The palaces that were opened to Yang Guang's organization were like floating pavilions in the air. Other than the specially reinforced foundations, almost all of them were occupied by this city. Using this world's superb craftsmanship and mechanical skills, Yang Guang controlled the demonic seeds and almost hollowed out the palace and the palace. The pavilions were on the ground, connected by bridges and cableways. The ground was extremely beautiful. On the basis of preserving the palace's splendor and beautiful gardens, the underground was hollowed out and reinforced with mechanical steel structures, creating a hollowed-out underground city. A large number of craftsmen were recruited to live and work here, creating a holy land of mechanical skills for Yang Guang. The craftsmanship of the Sui dynasty has always been superb. Regardless of whether it's the 10 Linjiang palaces that Yuan Jiji built for me or the eunuch Yang's treasury that Lu Miaozi built for Yang Su, they're all astonishing miracles in this era where science isn't as advanced. Let's not even talk about the 300 feet tall city walls of Luoyang and Daxing City, which are the epitome of the art of craftsmanship. It's not a problem to build a 100-meter tall city wall for the two capitals, which is equivalent to the height of a 33-story building 1,500 years from now. I've only dug a mere 2,700 kilometers of canal, and the world is already in flames? This is ridiculous. Hearing Yang Guang's complaints, Huang Chang could only smile bitterly. Your Majesty, the Jinghang Canal will benefit for generations to come. It connects the north and the south and is the foundation for the unification of China. It will definitely prosper for the next 500 years. It will be the foundation for the prosperity of the south and the foundation for the unification of the north. Yang Guang turned his head and looked at him. Do you think I don't know all this? Do I need a Song dynasty person to tell me? Huang Chang could only continue to smile bitterly. After all, in the world I was born in, the Sui and Tang dynasties did not have such high-level mechanical skills. I heard that the Jingyan Palace and the War God Temple are the greatest works of mechanical skills in the world. They are so mysterious that I dare not even think about it. Therefore, the old theories about the Sui and Tang dynasties in my hometown might not be the same as this world. The similarity in history is probably the will of the heavens. A world where eyeballs can be swapped at will might not be that normal. Yang Guang said lightly. Huang Chang might be shocked by this, but Yang Guang was not. He was someone who had seen the world. Although he had never seen the legendary Jingyan Palace that moved according to the orbit of the stars in the sky, he knew how to build a spaceship the size of a planet. Naturally, he did not care about this. However, his main consciousness warned him not to directly use the technology in his memory. It was as if he was hiding from something. That was why he had no choice but to combine it with the local mechanical techniques of this world to realize some of his ideas. Leading the way, Huang Chang explained, in the past few years, the Sui dynasty has been busy with construction. They built palaces, dug the canal for more than 10 years, and made several siege mechanisms. As a result, there are many craftsmen in the court who are skilled in the art of engineering. In addition, His Majesty helped a large number of imprisoned criminals and rebel prisoners reconstruct themselves under the sky devil soul devouring, allowing them to be reborn as people proficient in science. The combination of the two greatly expanded the study of mechanisms. Smelting, forging, construction, power, mechanics, chemistry, physics, and engineering advanced rapidly. Only electricity did not meet the requirement. Capture another batch of rebel soldiers. There is nothing in this world that is not enough, but we have a lot of people. Even if we have to electrocute the last Wagong rebel soldier, we must complete the electrical core and power system. Yang Guang ordered. Now we can use water power to generate electricity, and it can also drive 5 horsepower motors. However, it will take a few more years to perfect to combine it with the art of engineering. The scale of electricity is already enough, and we can conduct small-scale electrolysis of aluminum. The smelting of steel is also on the right track. Huang Chang quickly reported. Yang Guang interrupted him and said, "Control the speed of scientific investment, mainly to help this world's mechanical techniques, summarize the principles, and provide ideas. We must not lead its development, lest we attract the attention of the god and ruin my plans." Yes, that is why I have not dared to mass-produce firearms, Huang Chang reported. Yang Guang arrived in front of a complicated building. This place was heavily guarded, with eunuchs from the east and west faction guards everywhere. There was also a group of demonized 12 guards guarding this place. However, with Yang Guang's identity, he could easily enter. Inside was an ordinary forging and processing room. Perhaps in other places, there would be a shocking number of mechanisms and machines, but in this room, it was nothing more than a normal scene. Only on a high platform in the center of the side chamber was something different. It was a huge gauntlet that was twice the size of a normal person's arm. It was made up of countless parts and machinery. It was completely blood-red and emitted a shocking amount of heat. Yang Guang touched the surface of the gauntlet. It was as if the heat that could melt gold and corrode iron was blocked by the demonic qi, but it was enough for him to feel the lethality. Yang Guang stuffed his right arm into the gauntlet. He could feel the relatively warm temperature inside, and the mechanical structure that was very close to his muscles. He moved closer to take a look at this mechanical artwork. The harmonious components formed a perfect whole. When he circulated his qi, he could even control the burning power on the surface of the gauntlet, mixing it into a burning hot qi. What a divine weapon! Yang Guang sighed. Ingenious workmanship. He raised his right hand and felt the smooth movement of the gauntlet. To be able to achieve such results from combining qi and machinery, it is already very good. Yang Guang stretched out his right arm and poured demonic qi into his right hand. A terrifying corrosive power immediately wrapped around the gauntlet. If there is an internal martial artist with a burning qi attribute who wields this divine weapon. Yang Guang glanced at Huang Chang. He tactfully told him the name of the weapon, Iron Smelting Hand. Yes, with this iron smelting hand, you will be able to fight against top-class martial artists. Even the evil king and empress Yin will not be a problem. Although you cannot win, it will be difficult for you to lose. If you create another martial art to complement it, it will not be difficult for you to start a sect. But, Yang Guang's tone suddenly became fierce. Do I want these pieces of trash? He clenched his fist slightly. The gauntlet made of many precious alloys made a cracking sound in his palm. With Yang Guang's clench, a powerful divine weapon shattered into countless pieces. Get your thoughts away from divine weapons and get out of here. I do not need great power. There is no power in this world that can be stronger than me. Use the path of mechanisms to explore the mysteries of heaven and earth. Realize all kinds of abilities that can and cannot be done with true qi. That is your goal. For example, flying, controlling water and fire, or resisting 1,000 caddies. I would rather you give me a strange thing with a fuel injection tube that allows people to control fire with true qi than to give me this stupid thing, Yang Guang said coldly. Chapter 333. Jingyan Monastery was hidden deep in the forest. Even though only a few palaces and pavilions could be seen from afar, only when one got closer would one realize that there were more than 100 buildings inside. It was like a small city that was incredibly vast. The palaces were made of 5-colored glaze, and they looked magnificent and beautiful. When the sun shone on them, they shone with a glazed luster. It gave off the feeling of the 7 treasures of pure land of bliss and the essence of all living things. There were 7 palaces on the central axis, and one of them was a small hall made of pure copper. In front of the copper hall was a square that was 1,000 feet wide and was made of white stones. At this time, on the square, there were 2 groups of soldier monks. One group sat cross-legged around the copper palace, and the other stood in front of a large hall behind the copper palace. Each group had about 100 people, and all of them were strong martial arts masters with deep breath. In the hall, only Zen Master Liao Kong and the 4 Vajras were sitting under the golden Buddha statues. Their expressions were unusually solemn. In front of them were a few guests who were not dressed like monks. Among them, 2 young men were the most eye-catching. Their faces still looked childish, and they were dressed in rags. However, their eyes that shone with wisdom and cunning were exceptionally clear. Benefactor Ko, Benefactor Su, Benefactor Ba Feng, and Benefactor Dugu, Zen Master is skilled in silent meditation, so it's inconvenient for him to speak. Wu Chun pressed his palms together and said to the others, "The 2 holy monks, Tiantai Sek's Master Wisdom and Huatai Sek's Emperor's Heart, have asked all of you to come here because they want to ask you something." Quizhong said angrily, "Monk, don't you want to meditate and meditate as a monk, and you want to know about Eunuch Yang's warehouse from us? But you don't know that Eunuch Yang's warehouse is far away in Yangzhou. You almost King missed it by bringing us to Luoyang." Wu Chun did not know whether to laugh or cry. He could only chant a Buddhist name and say, "Benefactor Ko, you're being too serious. Eunuch Yang's warehouse has nothing to do with us otherworldly people." A haggard woman dressed in a white linen robe cast a cold glance at Quizhong and said coldly, "The eminent monks of Jingyan Monastery have boundless dharma, and they live a peaceful life. Why would they care about Eunuch Yang's warehouse? Only the boorish people from the countryside who are short-sighted will always be on guard against them." When she first spoke, Quizhong was dazzled by her beauty, but when he heard what she said later, he jumped up in anger. "You look down on money? Let me tell you, money is the best thing in the world. This golden Buddha main hall, this ancient temple, the silk kasaya those monks are wearing, the fine linen that you are wearing, which one of them doesn't need money? Aren't you looking down on us because we don't have money?" Quizhong dragged Su Jiling up and patted his chest. "If my brother wasn't wearing rags made of coarse cloth, would you dare to call him a boorish person from the countryside?" Dugu Feng couldn't help but raise her head to refute, but when she looked carefully, she discovered that under the tattered clothes that she had been unwilling to look at, the 2 youths' appearances were peerless. The places that the clothes could not cover, their bodies were well proportioned, their faces were handsome, and they had an outstanding temperament. One was elegant and natural, while the other was cynical and disdainful. Seriously speaking, none of the young masters from the aristocratic families in Daxing City could compare to them. Dugu Feng hesitated and did not speak, but Ko Chong sneered. "Jingyan Monastery? What eminent monks! Let me tell you, when I was a hooligan in Yangzhou, I didn't even have enough to eat, and I had to rely on Sister Zhen to help me. It was difficult for me to survive. The temples here and the bronze bodhisattvas and arhats are enough for the entire Yangzhou to eat for more than 30 years. Is this what they mean by being compassionate and caring for the world means?" He raised his leg and kicked the bronze incense burner beside him. Perhaps the flying smoke and dust blurred his vision, but his eyes turned red. "Eminent monks." He looked at Dugu Feng's delicate face and spat. "Eunuch Yang's warehouse can build countless temples and burn countless incense, but the monks are not moved. Even bodhisattvas would be moved." "Little Zhong." Su Jiling hurriedly pulled on his sleeve. Ko Zhong had guessed that the monks still had some dignity, and it would be hard for them to do anything if they caused a commotion. Now that Su Jiling pulled him back, he came back to his senses. If he let himself be, he might cause a commotion. Hence, he quickly used the excuse to get out of the embarrassing situation to prevent the monks from flying into a rage and killing them here. Wu Chun put his palms together and sighed. The beautiful temples are only to show the Buddha's might and enlighten the foolish people in the world to become Buddhists. We monks are all ascetic cultivators, and we don't dare to indulge in extravagance. The world is in chaos, and even if the Buddhists have a compassionate heart, they are also people who have secluded themselves from the world. When the Son of Heaven is born, we will naturally give up our wealth to help the world. If the Son of Heaven needs this gold Buddha and bronze gong man, you can give it to him. Even my body can be entrusted to him. Amit Ba, Dugu Feng, Ouyang Shi, and the rest of the righteous cultivators behind her put their palms together and chanted the name of Buddha. Dugu Feng even bowed and said, Zen Master is merciful, Senior Brother Wu Chun is merciful. She even glared at Ko Zhong. Ko Zhong originally did not want to say anything, but when he saw Dugu Feng's reaction, he felt that she was very despicable. He could not help but interrupt. After the Son of Heaven ascends to the throne, he will give you land and land with 10 times the compensation. It would be best if there will be another Emperor Liang and give the world to you. I will also give eunuch Yang's treasury to such a Son of Heaven. Let's see if he will bestow us brothers with high positions. He patted his chest and said, By then, I will be the great general, young Master Ling will be the great chancellor, and we will get 2 more eunuch Yang's treasury, you. Dugu Feng was furious, and a cold gleam flashed in her eyes. She wanted to teach this brat a lesson. However, Wu Chun pressed down lightly in the air, and a gentle force landed on her body, stopping her from making a move. Wu Chun said, Almsgiver Ko does not have any ill intentions. What you said was indeed a misunderstanding of us by outsiders, and it's not your fault that we didn't know. Female almsgiver Dugu, please show mercy. If it weren't for Elder Wu Chen's face. Dugu Feng threatened as she slowly sat down. Wu Chen then said to Ko Chong, Buddhism's good deeds are based on the heart, and there are no traces. When there is compassion, there will be retribution. When the wind blows, the flags move, and the hearts are moved, we just need to know that. Today, I have invited you here because of the death of your godfather, Du Fuwei. It has nothing to do with eunuch Yang's treasury, so please forgive him. Su Jiling nodded his head lightly. He pulled Ko Chang's hand and said, Master, you're being too serious. That Du Fuwei is not our godfather, but he forced us to kidnap him, and we had no choice. That day, because of eunuch Yang's treasury, he kidnapped us in Danyang County. When we arrived at Xian and County City, we were targeted by a white-faced man in embroidered clothes. Ko Chong smiled and added, I still remember when Du Fuwei saw those clothes, it was as if he had seen a ghost. He did not even care about the 2 of us and wanted to escape. Dugu Feng suddenly gritted her teeth and said, Dongchang Fanzi. Once she said that, the whole hall felt like it had fallen into an ice cave. To be continued. Chapter 334. Everyone in the hall fell silent. Only Wu Chun and Liao Kong looked at each other and placed their palms together as they chanted the name of Buddha. Ko Chong looked at their reactions and could not help but feel curious. He asked while gesticulating, Who are those Eastern faction guards? Why are you acting the same as Du Fuwei when you hear about them? You don't even dare to breathe loudly. Could it be that they are more powerful than the 3 masters and the 8 experts of the demonic sect? Shut up. Who allowed you to speak of them like that? They are nothing but clowns. What's the point of talking about them? Dugu Feng stuttered. She suddenly realized that Ko Zhong had witnessed Du Fuwei's death. How could he not know what the Eastern faction guards represented? Her face was flushed with anger, and her right hand was about to press on the longsword at her waist. My sins, my sins. Wu Chun chanted the name of Buddha, and it shook Ko Zhong and Dugu Feng's minds like a huge bell. After startling them, he sighed and said, Almsgiver Ko, you haven't understood the changes during this period of time, so you don't know that the Eastern Faction Guards and the Western Faction Guards are the two fiercest and cruelest dogs under Yang Guang. They have harmed countless righteous people. The foreigners you saw are their eyes and ears all over the world. Every one of their martial arts is unfathomable, and I can't guarantee that I can keep them here. I expected Du Fuwei to be afraid of being entangled by these foreigners, so he dragged him to the Eastern Faction Guard's commander. Unfortunately, he still couldn't escape. Ko Zhong was shocked. You're saying that the strange man is just the commander of the Eastern Faction Guards? Wu Chen nodded silently. That's terrifying. I think Du Fuwei won't last more than 3 moves against him, and he's the leader of the world's 3rd largest volunteer army. Yang Guang, that incapable emperor, can he possibly turn the tide? But that's not bad either. At least the imperial court is better than those volunteer armies who treat human lives like grass. As soon as Ko Zhong said this, he saw everyone glaring at him angrily. Yang Guang will be punished by heaven for his perverse acts. Du Gufeng slammed the table and stood up. Wu Chen gestured. Benefactor Ko, please tell us the details. Zhong heaved a sigh of relief. This time, he did not dare say anything, so he explained, Du Fuwei had just brought us out of Xianan. He was going to hand us over to his subordinates, but when he pushed open the door to the courtyard, he only saw a strange man with 6 foreigners. The rest of them were gone. Du Fuwei didn't say anything and immediately attacked. Young Master Ling and I hid in the house and only saw him waving his sleeves around. We couldn't even see his shadow. However, I could hear 2 sharp sounds of wind, just like thunder. Su Jiling saw that he was speaking mysteriously, but he was not going to get to the key point, so he could only add on for him. Sleeve universe. Du Gufeng said in a daze. When Wu Chen saw how confused the 2 of them were, he explained to them, universe in the sleeve is Du Fuwei's nickname. Later on, it was used to describe his superb fist technique, like the universe in the sleeve. Eventually, it became the name of this set of martial arts. That sound of thunder was probably the wind of the fist hidden in the universe in the sleeve. Du Fuwei's fist technique is superb. It's not inferior to Yu Wenhua's. In fact, it's even better. Yet, such martial arts couldn't even block 3 moves from a Baihu from the East Faction Guards? Du Gufeng said sadly. She turned around to look at Zhong and asked, Did you see how he died? Zhong saw that her expression was miserable and confused. It made his heart ache, so he did not bother to argue with her. We saw a ray of light in front of us and a sound. That ray of light suddenly appeared from the sky full of sleeve shadows. It was like lightning with a thin red mist. That sound was like the crisp sound of metal pieces colliding. After they left, when Yiling and I went to check, we only found this. Zhong took out a ring-shaped piece of metal. When Wu Chen took it in his hands, he realized that it was half of a handguard that had been split open. The handguard was made of fine iron, and it had a strange style. It seemed like it could shrink. However, there was a neat cut that split it diagonally. Only a small part of it was left, and there were faint traces of blood on it. Wu Chen gently touched the cut on the handguard and exclaimed, It's the seamless saber technique. The moment he said that, everyone went into an uproar. Ouyang Shi continued, I wonder which of Lu Jin, Chao Huachun, or Wang Ji went. To be able to split open this handguard in the second move, you must know that the saber is only 3 fingers wide and as thin as a cicada's wing. It sliced through metal as if it was nothing, and Du Fuwei couldn't block it at all. No wonder he lost his life in the 3rd move. With the Jianghuai army annihilated, the prestige of that muddle-headed ruler, Yang Guang, is even more unstoppable. His words were mournful, as though he was in despair. That weirdo seems to be called Wang Ji. Zhong pondered. I heard others calling him Lord Wang, and I thought it was Lord Dog. But what kind of martial technique is the seamless saber technique? He was filled with curiosity about the pugilistic world. Ouyang Shi sighed. It's a secret martial technique of the East Faction Guards, and only Baihu and above can practice it. Seamless refers to the essence of the saber technique. To use the seamless saber technique to penetrate into the enemy's weak point. In their eyes, our martial arts are like cattle waiting to be slaughtered, but they have no eyes and use the seamless saber technique to penetrate into our martial arts and take our lives. Seamless means that the saber technique is as terrifying as seamless hell. It also refers to the movement technique hidden in this saber technique. Not on this shore, not on the other shore, not in the middle. Seamless movement. Amit Ba. Wu Chun placed the handguard on his knees and sighed with his eyes closed. Benefactor Du's death was not unjust. Even this poor monk did not dare to face that saber head-on. Benefactor Du forcefully received it with the heaven and earth in the sleeve, and only broke the handguard. Benefactor Du's hands must have been injured by the saber aura, which was why he revealed a weak point and was. Wu Chun almost couldn't continue. Ouyang Shi even cried, "How can the heavens be indifferent to the people of the world? Yang Guang oppresses the world. Within the 9 states and 4 seas, which righteous cultivator can stop him? Buddha is merciful, who gave birth to Yang Guang? Who gave birth to Yang Guang?" Dugu Feng's eyes were red. She pulled out her sword and said angrily, "What is there to fear about Yang Guang? It's just death. He can kill Du Fue, my grandmother, and me, but can he kill the righteous hearts of the people of the world?" She turned to look at the 2 youths and asked, "Say, in this world, is there anyone who doesn't want to kill Yang Guang?" Ko Zhong was shocked by her heroic spirit and said foolishly, "I think so. As long as we can live, it's better to avoid trouble." He felt the tip of Duggerfeng's sword against his chest and hurriedly changed his words. "The world has suffered for a long time with Yang Guang gnashing their teeth and wishing they could kill the muddle-headed ruler. Our poor mother died in Yang Guang's hands." Thinking of Fu Junyi, his eyes couldn't help but turn red, and a sense of mutual hatred arose. To be continued. Chapter 335. Yang Guang. Quozhong murmured this well-known name softly. It was also a shadow in everyone's heart that could not be erased. When my mother assassinated Yang Guang, she didn't mention that this incapable ruler was so powerful. Quozhong was puzzled. I thought he could only order Yu Huagu around. I didn't expect him to have so many experts under him. If it was that Lord Wang who chased us, Xiao Ling and I would have died. Yu Huagu is also dead, Dugu Feng said indifferently. What? Quozhong and Su Jiling exclaimed at the same time. Quozhong said in disbelief. Isn't bone transformation old thief Yang Guang's most trusted lackey? How did he die so easily? Everyone knows Yu Huagu's heart. That incapable ruler seems to rely on him on the surface, but when the time comes, he is more ruthless than anyone else. That day when the imperial court was in chaos, Yu Huagu was the first to assassinate the incapable ruler and was killed by Shichong Yu Huatian. I saw it with my own eyes. Dugu Feng recalled what happened that day, and her cold expression cracked a little, revealing her vulnerability and uneasiness. Quozhong could not take his eyes off her. Master Wu Chun sighed. My condolences, benefactor. Bone transformation old thief is also dead. I was planning to practice martial arts to avenge my mother, but he failed to live up to expectations and died first. This makes our hearts feel empty. Quozhong touched his chest and said in a daze. Dugu Feng turned to Wu Chun and said, Master, I'm the only one who has seen Yang Guang fight. I believe Master Daoxin asked me to come here to tell you how terrifying Yang Guang is. Now that the righteous sects of the world are in a precarious situation, Yang Guang and his lackeys are forcing the people of the world to live in fear and arrogance. Master and the eminent monks of the Tranquil Thought Zen sect, please take care of yourselves and avoid Yang Guang for the time being. I heard that the 3 masters with the highest martial arts in the world are Ning Daoqi, Bai Xian, and our grandmaster, Fu Keilin. Even they are no match for Yang Guang? Su Jiling asked in surprise. Dugu Feng looked up at them with a strange light in her eyes. She sneered. From what I can see, the difference in their martial arts can be said to be a world of difference. Ouyang Shi was puzzled, but in an instant, he came to a realization and answered, Yang Guang is the emperor after all. He has elite soldiers and experts from the 2 factories protecting him. It's reasonable that the 3 great grandmasters can't do anything to him. I'm talking about the difference between the martial arts of the 3 grandmasters and that muddle-headed ruler. Yang Guang is the sky, they are the earth. Dugu Feng's words caused an uproar in the hall. Even Wu Chun couldn't help but ask, Benefactor Dugu, is what you said true? Another Ouyang Shi said in a trembling voice, Miss Feng, you have never seen the 3 great grandmasters fight, how can you be so sure? Quizhong and Su Jiling watched as the righteous and influential people trembled, and they found it rather funny. Dugu Feng looked around, stood up, and said, I have never seen the 3 great grandmasters fight at full strength, but my grandmother has. She said that there are a few people in the world whose martial arts are not inferior to the 3 great grandmasters, and Song Ke of South Ridge can be considered one of them. 20 years ago, he might have been lacking, but after 20 years of training in Saber Wedding Hall, Song Ke's saber technique has become even more terrifying than Ning Daoqi's martial arts. When they heard that it was Yu Chuhong's evaluation, everyone fell silent. Yu Chuhong's seniority was great, and she had a lot of experience. She could be considered one of the best in the Chinese world of martial artists, and her evaluation would naturally not be false. Shi Zhishuan can be considered one of them after he gets rid of the hidden problems in his martial arts. The 4 holy monks can also be considered one of them when they work together. There are also some Taoists and Buddhists who live in seclusion. They are mysterious and unfathomable, and it's difficult to gauge their strength. But among the elites who are second only to the great grandmasters, my grandmother ignored her hidden illness and attacked at full strength. She can be considered one of them, and Yuan Shang can be considered one of them. They are not weaker than Empress Yin Zhuyuyan and the previous successor of Kind Boathouse. But the 2 of them attacked at the speed of lightning and gathered their strength in one strike. To Yang Guang, they are just useless. They can't even withstand a single blow. When Dugu Feng said this, her voice was already whimpering. She sucked in a deep breath and said, Seniors, it's not that I'm afraid of Yang Guang's demonic might and want to speak up for him. It's just that he is indeed the most terrifying enemy of the righteous path in history. I suspect that Yang Guang might already be able to shatter space. There are rumors in Daxing City that Yang Guang is the reincarnation of the primordial heavenly demon who was killed by Nuwa and turned into a sky demonic stone. This might be nonsense, but it's not impossible for us to use this to test how great Yang Guang's martial arts are. Liao Kong placed a hand on Wu Chen's shoulder and calmed his uneasy heart. He tapped the wooden fish in his hand gently and pulled everyone out of the mysterious and despairing atmosphere Dugu Feng had created with her words. It was only then that Dugu Feng got rid of the demonic shadow in her heart. She bowed to Monk Liao Kong and said, Thank you for enlightening me, Monk Liao Kong. Ever since that day, Yang Guang's shadow has been lingering in my mind, and this happens often. Wu Chun returned the greeting and replied, Benefactor Dugu, I'm afraid you've already fallen into an illusion created by Yang Guang. My Buddhist sect has some knowledge of this kind of martial arts. Legend has it that the Tantric sect has a technique that can pull people into 3 reincarnations. Yang Guang might know this technique as well. Monk Liao Kong, please descend this time and let the monks of the Buddhist sect chant scriptures and pray for you. In about 10 days, the demon in your heart will be removed. Dugu Feng gladly accepted Wu Chen's good intentions. Wu Chen turned to Ba Feng Han and asked in a deep voice, This time, I've invited Benefactor Ba Feng Han here to ask about the cause of Tai Lei's flying eagle Chueo's death. You've guessed correctly. He probably died at the hands of the East Faction guards. Ba Feng Han replied coldly. He was supposed to have a duel with me, but a month ago, he suddenly broke his promise and went to the Great Sway. I wanted to find out what happened. I didn't expect to follow his trail all the way to Jinling and escape into the Steel Cavalry Association. The Steel Cavalry Association is actually in cahoots with Tai Lei. Wu Chen asked in surprise. That's right. The leader of the Steel Cavalry Association, young Master Ren, is Chu Ao's son. His original name is Young Master Chu. He must have a motive for hiding in the Central Plains. Unfortunately, this time, Chu Ao wasn't here to conspire with the Steel Cavalry Association, but to protect his son's life. In the end, he even lost his life. Ba Feng Han said. No wonder, no wonder. Wu Chen's expression was a little dazed, as if he was recalling some things about the Steel Cavalry Association. He quickly regained his senses. The Steel Cavalry Association is plotting against us. We can't let them live. It's too late. The people of the Steel Cavalry Association are all dead. Those who didn't die have already fallen into the hands of the Great Sway Imperial Court. Ba Feng Han raised his eyes. The East Faction guards didn't ambush young Master Ren. They directly killed their way into the Steel Cavalry Association. Those who dared to resist were all killed. As for the Steel Cavalry Association's ordinary members and businesses, they have all fallen into the hands of the Great Sway Imperial Court. I heard from the eunuch that this is called nationalization. To be continued. Chapter 336. Ouyang Shi sighed. Chu Ao created the 9 transformations of condensing reality and had the Move 13 Flying Eagle strike. He was also a peerless master from the outside world. I have also heard of his son young Master Ren. His martial arts are no less than his father's. Adding on the Steel Cavalry Association's evil monk and beautiful nun, they were unable to stop the Eastern Faction guards in their lair at Jinling. It is really hard to accept. He asked doubtfully, Do you know which commander of the 2 faction guards did it? I don't know that person, but Chu Ao was killed by him with a heavy blow to his chest. Young Master Ren was knocked back by the meteor hammer and smashed himself to death. The evil monk and beautiful nun joined forces to attack him, but they were stabbed in the back by his leg technique. The force passed through their bodies and crushed their internal organs. Although we couldn't examine the body, that person's martial arts are really unparalleled. He is also proficient in Yin cold and dry hot qi. Ouyang Shi and Master Wu Chen looked at each other, not knowing who this person was. They could only sigh. The Eastern and Western faction guards are really full of masters, the common people are suffering. It's Chao Ren Chao. Dugu Feng suddenly said, My father told me that he is the one in charge of monitoring the Dugu organization. The underworld cold palm and the burning leg technique are his unique skills. In the 2 factions, no one else can practice them. That day, my father endured humiliation to protect the Dugu organization. It was him who came to my house to clean up and killed 12 of my guests. He came and went with just 1 palm, but no one could stop him. He pressed down with all 4 limbs, crushing all the muscles and bones. The Eastern and Western faction guards are full of masters. That day in the main hall, there were 14 or 15 people standing at the same level as Yu Huatian, Wang Ji, Chao Huachun and Chao Ren Chao. Not to mention the 2 faction guards' supervisors, Tong Guan. As the Tao rises 1 foot, the devil rises 10. Is the time for the Tao to decline and the devil to rise again? Ouyang Shi could not help but sigh. At this time, Quizhong suddenly interrupted them and pointed to the door. Did you notice that the surroundings are a little strange? When we first entered the hall, the monks in the vicinity might have been quiet, but it wasn't as if there weren't any human voices in the distance. But now there isn't even the sound of birds and beasts. Quizhong's eyes and ears had sharpened after he cultivated the longevity formula. He noticed that something was amiss. Jingyan Monastery was located in the forest. Furthermore, monks did not kill birds and beasts. Even hunters did not kill nearby out of respect. Therefore, there were many wild animals nearby. Now there were no birds or beasts. It was clearly abnormal. Impossible. There are 300 monk soldiers from Jingyan Zen Monastery protecting us nearby. Not even a fly can fly in. How could someone finish them off silently? Ouyang Shi exclaimed. However, he saw Monk Lukong standing up with a solemn expression. Although the main hall and the square were only separated by a flimsy wooden door, the people in this small space felt a little relieved. Then, they held their breath and looked at the door as if they were looking at a ghost. Liao Kong waved his hand and asked them to retreat to a hidden place. He opened the door himself. In the distance, the monk soldiers in dark yellow robes faced the main hall and stood in 2 neat rows. Dugu Feng heaved a sigh of relief. It looks like we were overthinking. However, the expressions of the people beside her turned unprecedentedly solemn. Kuozhong whispered, "Stupid worm, if there's really no problem, why are those monks facing us? If they want to be on guard, shouldn't they be facing behind them?" Dugu Feng could not be bothered with Kuozhong's derogatory remarks. She looked out of the hall in horror. Indeed, the monk soldiers in the square stiffened, their faces filled with fear. Wuchen took a step forward and roared angrily at the bronze hall in the square. "Where did you come from, friend? How dare you enter my Jingyan monastery as a guest without informing the owner? If you have not offended us in any way, can you release the monks? This penniless monk is willing to go with you. All lands under the heavens belong to the king. In the eyes of our East Military Order, every place is our home. You foreign monk, you have illegally built a religious site here, occupied the land, bewitched the hearts of the people, and cheated the believers of their money. The amount is especially huge, and the effects are especially bad. Therefore, the Minister of Internal Affairs has ordered you to move out within 10 days. I never expected you to resist." A thin, beardless man with a sinister face walked out from behind the monk soldiers and berated them. "Nonsense." Wu Qi, who was behind Wuchen, said angrily, "This is a quiet place. Jingyan Monastery has been here for 100 years. The land deeds and seals are all complete. Furthermore, no one has ever informed us that we are moving." He struck the monk's staff in his hand heavily, cracking the bluestone pavement on the ground. "We don't care how the previous dynasty occupied this place, but today your land deeds were obtained through bribery. You have even illegally expanded by more than 1,000 mu. Now that the matter has been exposed, please come with us. As for the notification, it might have been delayed by the local authorities. This is a common occurrence, but the East Military Order doesn't care about that. This time, the Minister of Internal Affairs has reported to the supervisor and ordered us to forcefully demolish this monastery. The Son of Heaven has already ordered to review the property rights and religious rights of all the temples in the world. After the Nanbei dynasty, all of them will be forcefully demolished, except for those specially approved. The temples of the barbarians cannot be taken by the Han. Those who oppose the Sui dynasty and the Han dynasty are all evil cults and must be eradicated. The eunuch cast a cold glance at the monk soldiers standing beside him and sneered, "Furthermore, you have even privately armed yourselves." He patted the monk soldier's sturdy chest and said loudly, "This physique, this body, is it something that can be grown from vegetables and tofu? I even found more than 50 pigs in the back kitchen of your monastery, and there was even lard and pork. You are really fake monks, you are really bandits. There is no such thing as a monk not eating meat, we just don't eat spicy food." Wuchen tried to explain. The Minister of Internal Affairs has decreed that anyone who kills, eats meat will be expelled from the monastic register. Anyone who occupies land and uses metal to create Buddha statues will be considered as a supervised monastery. Anyone who fails to pass the examination to become a monk will have their taxes increased by 3 levels, and their entire family will be heavily taxed. Anyone who donates to the monastery will be charged a 90% charity tax by the imperial court. Only those who farm themselves, and each person occupies less than 30 mu of land, are recognized as monks by the imperial court. Of course, to encourage the development of Buddhism, the imperial court will subsidize every eminent monk and even grant them a degree. Every year, 500 stones. As for the degree examination, it's very simple. One must be able to recite the Tripitaka Sutra, be proficient in Sanskrit, and pass the 13 examinations of music, poetry, scripture interpretation, recitation, meditation, and asceticism. Therefore, the imperial court has the final say on who is a monk and who is an eminent monk. After hearing his words, even Liao Kong, who had the best temper, was so angry that his face turned purple. Before they could get angry, they heard the eunuch sneer again and say, "By the way, that's the treatment of the other monasteries in the world. The Jingyan Zen sect has been found to have illegally occupied and hidden the national treasure, the Heshibi, together with the Tsihong Quiet House. The impact is especially great and their behavior is very bad. They have been handed over to the East Faction guards for interrogation." He shouted sternly, "Everyone here, come with us!" Before he finished speaking, the row of monk soldiers stretched out a spring embroidery knife and placed it under the monks' necks. In the entire Jingyan Zen monastery, except for the people in the main hall, everyone else was held hostage by the East Faction guards behind them. Also, in order to prevent monks from breaking the precepts, His Majesty has specially approved a kind of oil, cottonseed oil. When our colleagues who went to the Western region and India return, I guarantee that all of you will be able to eat oil. You will no longer have to worry about breaking the precepts. Chapter 337. Master Wu Chen was so angry that his face turned green. Although he did not know what the cottonseed oil that the eunuch mentioned was, he knew that it was nothing good. However, for the sake of all the monks in the monastery, he had no choice but to tolerate it. Jingyan Monastery had a noble status in the pugilistic world. It had never suffered such humiliation. If not for Zen Master Liakong being behind him, he would have already flared up. However, when he heard the words he jade, he could not help but turn pale even though he was well educated. Even Zen Master Liakong, who had been quiet all this while, could not help but grip the staff in his hand tightly. Everyone in the hall fell silent. Only Quozhong and Su Jiling were still in the mood to whisper, "So the he jade that mother mentioned is here." However, the monks are unlucky this time. Yang Guang knows that the he jade is here. A man's wealth is his own ruin. He seems to be talking about the he jade. The he jade is a treasure of destiny. Jingyan Monastery actually dared to possess it privately. This is a capital crime. No emperor will let them off. Su Jiling sighed. Quozhong came to a realization. Originally, they thought that Yang Guang was still an incompetent ruler. Even if he knew that the he jade was in their hands, he could not do anything to the group of monks. In the end, Yang Guang changed and led the East and West faction to kill all the disobedient officials in the world. This item rotted in his hands, resulting in such a terrible disaster. "Zen Master, leave quickly," Wu Chen suddenly said. "Let us stop them first. Zen Master, take the he jade and leave this place quickly." Amitabha! A Buddhist proclamation shook the entire hall. It was Liakong, who had cultivated silent meditation, who spoke personally. "Zen Master, Wu Chen, silent meditation is to calm your mind. Now that your mind is no longer calm, what's the use?" Liakong said in a low voice. His voice was like jade colliding, clanging loudly. "The two factions have already made arrangements. This place is completely surrounded. All the monks of Jingyan Monastery have fallen into the enemy's hands. What's the use of me escaping alone?" He turned to Quozhong and Su Jiling and said, "It's a pity that I've implicated all of you. Benefactors, other than the He Shi Bai, what Yang Guang wanted the most were the two big secrets in your hands. The art of longevity and eunuch Yang's warehouse are things that the incapable ruler is determined to obtain. I originally wanted to bring the two of you here to protect them and prevent them from falling into Yang Guang's hands, but who knew that we would end up dragging you down? I overestimated Zen Monastery Jingyan. I never expected the strength of the eastern and western factories to be so terrifying. The monastery couldn't even withstand them for a moment. Liao Zhiling forced his voice into a straight line and whispered, "Behind the golden Buddha statue in the main hall, there is a secret passage that leads straight to the back of the mountain. Benefactors, please take Lady Dugu and leave first. I will once again stop the East faction guards and buy you some time." Then, Su Zhiling suddenly felt something hard in his hand. He guessed that this should be the Heshabi. "Benefactor, take the Heshabi with you. You mustn't use your martial arts. When you reach the secret passage, bury this thing anywhere on the ground, and then activate the mechanism to destroy the entire secret passage, burying it under millions of kilograms of soil and stones. In the future, when a wise master is born, he will come here to excavate." With that, he took a step forward and said to the eunuch, "Amitba, what a sin! Benefactor, please let go of the monks in the monastery. This penniless monk is willing to take their place. They are all people who have become monks. All sins will be borne by this penniless monk. It has nothing to do with them." "Do you think it has nothing to do with you just because you say it has nothing to do with you?" The eunuch sneered. "The laws of the Sui dynasty originate from His Majesty's imperial court and are decided by the Supreme Court. Whether they are guilty or not, it is up to the Supreme Court and His Majesty to decide. Why are you interfering? Liao Kong, you have illegally preached for many years. You have created and spread superstition and heresy, organized, planned, implemented, and instigated a split in the Sui dynasty, slandered His Majesty, spoke rudely, and subverted the stability of the imperial court. You have even privately occupied the Heshabi, a national treasure of great significance, in an attempt to overthrow the imperial court system. You have committed the most heinous crimes. Moreover, this is not done by you alone. It is a collective crime of the entire Hu cult. According to our investigations, Mount Wutai, Shaolin Temple, Huayan sect, and more than 500 monasteries have organized and purposefully participated in your rebellious actions. With an organization called Sihong Jing Temple as the leader, they used sex appeal and emotions to deceive and bewitch others to expand the cult's influence. Inciting subversion and creating absurd arguments about choosing the Son of Heaven to save the people is simply outrageous. His Majesty is a brilliant saint who saves the world and the people. He is higher than all saints and Buddhas. He is the highest God in the world and the son of Haotian. How dare any demon or ghost slander him? The eunuch solemnly bowed toward the sky and said, "Now, with our East and West faction monitoring the world's lawless traders, punishing and dismantling the cult's temple doors, and capturing its leaders, not to mention you, the entire Jingyan monastery, and even the tens of thousands of monks in the world, will pay a heavy price for your rebellious actions." He pulled out the spring embroidery knife from his waist and sneered, "Don't worry. In the hands of our two factions, even stones will speak. The monks of Jingyan Monastery will definitely confess your accomplices in the rebellion and let us send them down to see you." Quozhong and Su Zhiling had not found a suitable opportunity, but they had already met up with Dugu Feng. They were only waiting for Liao Kong to distract the eunuch and create chaos so that they could escape. Liao Kong, Wu Chen, and the others revealed expressions of anger and grief. They held their staffs and scanned the East faction's fanatics everywhere. They heard Liao Kong shout, "Eunuchs! Don't you know the cycle of life and death and retribution for your actions? Now that the incapable ruler is in power, there are difficulties for us Buddhism, but we are willing to sacrifice our lives for a righteous cause and will be reborn in paradise. As for you incapable rulers, you will forever fall into the hell of Avicii, never to be reincarnated." "Well said." The eunuch laughed. I'm relieved. Since you all died so happily, you must have no regret. It's fine as long as we suffer in this world. I will definitely report it to His Majesty. Anyone who believes in paradise, heaven, and hell will be sent to enjoy happiness. Liao Kong, I know you have many believers. Don't worry, you will definitely see them when you reach paradise. You won't be lonely. I remember that in the Buddhist scriptures, those who have the blood of Buddha can go to heaven to become a demon king. Liao Kong, when you reach paradise, you must curse me so that I can become a demon king after I die. I will follow His Majesty and surpass countless fools in the world. I Gouda will enjoy it. He laughed wildly. Kill. Gouda raised his left hand up high. All the fanatics drew their blades, and they were waiting for his left hand to swing down. They drew their long blades, causing the blood of the monk soldiers' necks to splatter. Stop! Wu Chen's eyes were bloodshot. He was the first to raise his staff and pounce forward. Just as he was carrying the nameless fire of karma and the might of 1,000 caddies, he attacked Gu Da's head. A figure wielding a long sword pounced down from the sky. A sharp and unpredictable sword gleam slashed Wu Chen's sword back into the hall. Wu Qi and the others hurried forward to help Wu Chen. A long sword wound stretched from Wu Chen's abdomen to his shoulder. If it was an inch deeper, his chest would have been split open. The person's sword gleam was so swift that it sent chills down one's spine. Chapter 338. Yes. Gu Deong did not dare to delay. He did not even look at the people in the hall and shouted, "The Emperor has arrived, everything here will be decided by the Emperor. All of you, clear the place with me in preparation for His Majesty's arrival." The Eastern faction's Fanzi obeyed the order and sheathed their swords in unison. The sound was like a knife cutting grass. When Liao Kong, Ouyang Shi, and company saw this scene, their expressions changed drastically. The 500 to 600 people from the East faction guards acted as if they were one person. Coupled with their blank expressions and resolute actions, the 200-plus monk soldiers from the Jingyan monastery, who were highly skilled in martial arts, were like clay chickens compared to them. Ouyang Shi said in a low voice, "Zen Master, right now that traitor Yang's power is great, the Eastern and Western faction guards' arrogance is soaring to the sky. From the movements of those foreigners, we can't underestimate them. Drawing and sheathing their sabers, giving orders and prohibitions, if Yang Guang really uses the two factions to suppress the world, no one can stop him. It is better to avoid the sharp edge and wait for the right time." Liao Kong sighed. "Benefactor Ouyang, it is not that we Buddhists insist on getting involved in this turbulent world of mortals, but now that things have come to this, we cannot allow the righteous to retreat. Yang Guang is a tyrant of a generation. Although he made the people immoral and treated the aristocratic families harshly, he opened the canal, conquered Korea, conducted the imperial examinations, suppressed the aristocratic families. His actions are immoral and righteous. He is a cruel and terrible person like the first emperor. I see that he has his own dharma, just like the devil King Bushuan. He can make the world difficult and all living beings fall. I am not worried that he is tyrannical and immoral, but I am worried that he will abuse the devil path and bewitch all living beings, causing the orthodoxy of the Central Plains to disappear and the righteous to sink. In the future, when the devil path is 10 feet high, it will be when he cripples bhikkhus and bhikkhunis, tampers with scriptures, slaughters Buddhists, reverses the principles, causes the world to be indistinguishable, the etiquette and music will be broken, the Dharma will be destroyed, the people's hearts will be lost, and everyone will be like demons in the world of desire. At the emotional point, Liao Kong and the 4 Vajras behind him closed their eyes and chanted, Amitba, we have sinned, sinned. Their expressions were compassionate, solemn, and holy. Dugu Feng watched as the monks on the white stone square were dragged away by the East faction's Fanzi. The center of the square, which was as wide as 100 zhang, was completely cleared. watching the incense burner and the Buddha statue being mercilessly kicked down by the East faction Fanzi, the painted sculptures and golden ornaments enshrined in the middle of the square, the rather imposing statues of Medicine Master, Sakya, Amitabha, and the other Buddhas were dragged away with their faces on the ground. Liao Kong's face twitched. He was obviously furious. The face of the gold-plated bronze Buddha rubbed against the ground, creating a string of sparks. Looking at the gold paint that had been rubbed off the ground, Gu Yong's right eyelid twitched and he scolded angrily, "Be careful, this is His Majesty's military expenditure, our salary." He looked around at the 500 Luohan statues and said with a cold laugh, "With this copper as military expenditure, we can forcefully demolish the 450 temples in the south." At that time, he would transform all these halls into civilian houses and move the disaster victims in. With the temples as the city, the homeless people would have a place to live again. These monks are all fat and strong, and their residences are all over the place. If we don't kill them, how can we make our country rich? When all the aristocratic families in the world, Buddhism and Taoism are all exterminated, how much blood and sweat, land and wealth will there be to pacify the hearts of the people in the world? No wonder His Majesty wants to start the system of nobility, land and residences, so that the whole world will have land. People say that if you don't kill bald donkeys, you won't get rich. Dugu Feng couldn't help but say, "Do you really want to kill all the aristocratic families in the world?" Gu Deong pretended to be surprised and said, "Oh? Why not? If His Majesty really wants to exterminate the aristocratic families, what can you do? If His Majesty wants to live, they will live, and if He wants to die, they will die. In this world, those who obey the heavens will prosper, and those who defy the heavens will die. And His Majesty is the heavens. You are not willing to be His Majesty's concubines, nor are you willing to die. You are making things very difficult for me." "It doesn't matter if it's difficult for me, but we must not make things difficult for His Majesty." "Dugufeng, how dare you? Do you really think the superintendent won't dare to kill your entire family?" Gu Deong shouted sternly, causing Dugufeng's face to turn pale, and she couldn't help but take a few steps back. Before Liao Kong could say anything, Yu Huatian, who was standing at the side, had a solemn expression and shouted clearly, "His Majesty has arrived." Liao Kong, Buchan, and the others turned to look at the opposite side of the white stone plaza as if they were facing a great enemy. The hot-tempered Buching even raised his staff and roared, wanting to rush down the hall towards the plaza. Buchan and the others couldn't stop him in time, so they could only rush down as well. Liao Kong Zen Master sighed and turned to Quozhong and Su Jiling, saying, "Benefactors, leave this place quickly." "Zen Master!" Dugufeng couldn't help but call out. "Amitabha, today's disaster is imminent. This old monk has no choice but to die for the sake of all the monks in the temple. Benefactor Dugu, leave quickly." Liao Kong Zen Master, who looked like a young man on the surface, raised his staff horizontally and said to them, "The future of the righteous path of the world depends on you. Remember, it's important to protect yourself. Don't let that incapable ruler succeed." After saying that, Liao Kong rushed down the hall without turning his head back. Dugu Feng sobbed uncontrollably and cried, "Zen Master! All the masters!" Quozhong could only pull her back and shouted in her ear, "Leave quickly, don't waste the opportunity that Master Liao Kong has fought for us." Looking at the despondent Dugu Feng, who was on the verge of despair, Quozhong couldn't imagine what kind of divine being Yang Guang was, to actually make such a smart and beautiful girl feel so hopeless. But he knew that he had to pull her back. "The He Sure Bai is in my hands. If I lose it, there's no hope of dealing with Yang Guang in this world. Our martial arts are crude, the He Sure Bai still needs your protection. Miss Dugu, you mustn't be impulsive." Su Jiling also tried to persuade her. "Leave quickly." Ouyang Shi blocked the entrance of the hall with his sword horizontally and sang, "I've supported the righteous path for 20 years, Today is the day I die for justice. Die, you traitor! In the time it took to say those words, the 4 great Vajras had already formed a formation and were fighting with the East and West faction guards. 6 of the guards drew the embroidered spring sabers from their waists and charged forward in a simple formation. The saber flashes were swift and fierce, and their coordination was tacit. However, the other guards acted as if they didn't see the desperate struggle of Jingyan Monastery. Other than the dozen or so guards who were in charge of guarding, the others faced the hall and knelt on one knee, saying, "Servants of the East and West faction guards respectfully welcome His Majesty. Long live His Majesty!" Unchen, who was fighting, couldn't care less about his injuries. He tried his best to resist the East faction guards' vicious hidden weapons and saber flashes. Suddenly, he felt a huge shadow slowly appear behind him. In the blink of an eye, it covered the entire hall and spread to the square. The sunlight suddenly disappeared from his body, and a huge shadow that could be seen with the naked eye covered the surroundings. Unchen pulled out his staff and retreated a few steps with the other 3 great Vajras. He finally had the time to take a look above him. He saw a huge object. It was a huge white ship that looked like a heavenly palace. It had already reached the sky above the hall. On the top of the ship was a huge air sac, and below it was a wooden base. It was a huge airship. The huge body that tore through the air shocked the 4 great Vajras. The huge sway chi on the white air sac scared them out of their wit. The airship was 1,000 feet above the ground, but with Liao Kong's eyesight, he could already see the densely packed figures on it. He could even see the commanders and Baihu in the East faction guard's uniform looking at him with cold smiles. Quizhong and Su Jiling were in the hall. They were surprised to see Liao Kong and the 4 great guardian deities standing rooted to the ground. They were very confused as to why they had such a terrified expression on their faces. Ever since Quizhong met them, he had seen them speak vehemently, face death calmly, and rage. However, he had never seen such a bone-chilling fear. He saw Liao Kong slowly turn his head and roar at him, "Run!" The despair and mournfulness in his voice made one's hair stand on end. In the next moment, he saw countless East faction guards descending from the sky. They pulled out the spring embroidery sabers in their hands and swooped down from a few feet in the air. The saber gleams were like snow, filling the entire space with rustling sounds. Then, Su Jiling pulled Quizhong into the secret passage. He could no longer see those roaring and despairing monks. Yang Guang stood by the hanging window of the airship, looking down at the white stone plaza beneath his feet. Dozens of ropes hung down from the airship. The East faction guards and the commanders slid down the rope. When they were a few feet above the ground, they executed their movement techniques and formed a formation with their companions before swooping down. Yang Guang looked at the ant-like figures beneath his feet. He suddenly let out a long roar and leaped down from a height of more than 1,000 feet. Liao Kong happened to meet his gaze. In Yang Guang's eyes, Liao Kong suddenly saw the future of the Central Plains. All living beings were falling, and everyone was a demon. He could not help but burst into tears. Chapter 339. Buchen waved his Buddhist staff, facing the blades of the 2 factions. The copper staff in his hand was like a flood dragon overturning the sea, stirring up countless shadows of the staff, brandishing an impenetrable force. The other 3 Vajras also covered him. The 4 of them cooperated to form a formation. Their power was more than 1,000 times more terrifying. In the midst of the snow-like blades, they were as firm as a rock. After decades of living and eating together, the martial arts of the brothers came from the same source. When they worked together, they were like a giant with 4 heads and 8 arms. Under the sharp blades of the eunuchs, they firmly guarded a circle. In less than 2 breaths' time, the 13 East faction guards had slashed out a total of more than 1,600 blades. The rolling spring embroidery blades were like a rolling wave of snow, fiercely hitting the 4 Vajra formations. In Ouyang Shi's dumbfounded eyes, the rolling waves of blades chopped through anything that dared to block in front of it. Only the 4 monk staffs and flesh bodies were indestructible. 2 breaths' time passed. The East faction guards in midair had already landed on the ground. They held their blades and vigilantly surrounded the 4 Vajras, but did not continue to attack them. But at this time, Yu Huatian and Gu Deong, who were half kneeling on the ground, had already stood up. Above them, Wang Ji, Lu Jin, Chao Huachun and Chao Rinchao attacked from midair. The 6 commanders and Baihu of the 2 factions rushed forward. Yu Huatian held a long sword, Gu Deong pulled out a spring embroidery blade, Lu Jin and Wang Ji simultaneously pulled out a thin blade that was 3 fingers wide. Chao Huachun and Chao Rinchao were empty-handed, like eagles attacking from midair. Bu Chen raised his Buddhist staff. Like a mad demon, it swept up a strong wind and smashed towards Yu Huatian's head. As Yu Huatian unsheathed his long sword, 2 thin, cold lights flew out from the back of the sword, moving as fast as lightning. Bu Chen hurriedly pressed down with his staff. The thick staff, which weighed several hundred pounds, trembled like an iron wall, pressing down on the 2 cold lights. But Yu Huatian only flicked his long sword slightly. Bu Chen felt the steel staff in his hand suddenly sink. Before he could react, the cold light drew a strange path and cut through the staff in Bu Chen's hand. The sharp saber chi seemed to have pressed against their skin, causing Bu Chen and the other 3 Vajras to feel a stinging pain. But in fact, it was just Gu De pulling out his saber. The continuous saber light flowed out of the scabbard like flowing water. Just looking at the saber shadow made people feel a threatening sharpness. The cold light, the flowing saber shadow, and the snowflakes falling from the sky. The 4 great Vajras were in dire straits. In an instant, Bu Chen felt his body turn cold. The kasaya that was tied to his chest quietly floated to the ground, covering the bloodstains on it. Bu Chen felt all the strength in his body leave his body bit by bit. He looked at Yu Huatian's sword and suddenly said, "So it's a magnetic flying sword." Senior Liao Kong, Buchan. I tried my best. The 4 Vajrapani's bodies collapsed like a mountain of gold and jade pillars. Liao Kong's face was covered in tears. Ouyang Shi, who was standing in front of the main hall, could not help but roar into the sky, "Master Bu Chen, you want to die? Not so easy." Gu De Yong sneered. He waved his hand behind him, and several East faction guards ran up and dragged the dying 4 great Vajrapani away. East faction guards Gu De Yong is here to send all the masters into the path of evil. Ouyang Shi's old tears flowed down his face. But the one coming at him was the commander of the West faction guards, Baihu Wang Ji. The blood-stained saber had not yet returned to its scabbard, but was already heading for his head. The endless saber technique was like a hot knife cutting through butter. It split the center of Ouyang Shi's sword technique, and the cold light went straight for his neck. "Stop!" Liao Kong flicked out a prayer bead and aimed it at Wang Ji's back. However, Wang Ji did not pay any attention to him. The thin knife in his hand quickly swept past Ouyang Shi's neck, and a large head flew into the air. Behind him, Yu Huatian's sword slashed at the prayer beads, and a solid copper prayer bead was easily cut in half by the sword. Liao Kong still failed to kill Ouyang Shi. In less than 5 breaths, all the masters of the Jingyan Zen sect in the main hall, except for Liao Kong, fell into the enemy's hands. Ouyang Shi, who came to support, was killed. At this time, Yang Guangcai stepped on the head of the Manjushri Bodhisattva statue in the middle of the square and looked down at everyone in the square. He descended thousands of feet and stepped on the Buddha statue, but there was no ripple. Liao Kong knew that with this Qinggong that was like a god or a devil, he would not be able to fight back. This was not something that a human could do. In his mind, only a god or a devil could do this. Yang Guang. The way of a ruler is to respect virtue first, then the people, then to show kindness, and finally, to show dignity. Your demonic skills are world-shaking. The East faction guards and the West faction guards are your minions. They are arrogant, but the people of the world will never succumb to tyranny. In the past, when Chen Xing and Wu Guang raised their arms, the heroes of the world rose to resist the tyranny of the Qin dynasty and promote righteousness. Today, I will not let them have no descendants. The death of this penniless monk doesn't matter, and the destruction of the Jingyan Zen monastery doesn't matter either. One day, Yang Guang, you will die in the hands of the righteous people of the world. Kill the tyrannical sway. Yang Guang looked at the magnificent and mighty Jingyan Zen monastery. Hundreds of palaces were connected in the mountains like a small city. Hearing Liao Kong's bloody rebuke, he did not care at all. He said calmly, "Son of Heaven, a strong army is the best. In the past, you were able to submit to the 5 barbarians. The day after tomorrow, you can shave your hair and change your clothes. Today, you can kneel under my rule." "Your Majesty." Wang Ji knelt in front of Yang Guang and reported, "Ko Su, Dugufeng, and the others have escaped through the secret passage in the hall. The Heshabi has also been taken away by them." When Liao Kong heard this news, his eyebrows twitched slightly. It was hard to tell whether he was happy or angry. Wang Ji continued, "The secret passage has been destroyed by the mechanism, but their whereabouts are still within our grasp. Your Majesty, please instruct us." Hearing this, Liao Kong could not help but look shocked. However, what shocked him even more was what happened next. Yang Guang said with a smile, "Let Dugufeng lead them to the south and connect with the forces of the righteous path. At the same time, continue to oppress Wutai Mountain, Shaolin Temple, Huayan Sect, and other Buddhist forces. Let them collude with the rebel army, aristocratic families, and even the Turks. Spread the news that my demonic technique originated from the primordial demon. Only the secret of longevity and the Heshabi can restrain it. The selection of the emperor in Luoyang needs to be heavily publicized. I want to give them a chance to think that they can assassinate me. The Sihangjing Temple will definitely not let go of this opportunity. After the craftsmen supervise the airship, the world's revolutionary army will be like clay chickens and pottery dogs to me. Now, as long as the worms hidden underground are exposed, we can wipe them out in one fell swoop." "Dugufeng," Liao Kong said in disbelief, "Dugufeng can't be. Dugufeng will naturally not betray the righteous path, but her father, Dugufeng, can become my pawn without controlling her." Yang Guang smiled. He looked at Liao Kong and asked, "Do you know what I hate the most?" Chapter 340. Surrounded by enemies from the 2 factories, Liao Kong's expression did not change. He resolutely raised the monk's staff in his hand and said to Yang Guang in a deep voice, "Everything above the realm is called thoughtless. Leaving the realm above the white thoughts, not the thoughts above the Dharma. If one does not think of anything, removing all thoughts, one thought will lead to death and another place to live. If there is no thought, there is no existence without thought." The moon-white monk robe fluttered with the wind, revealing a pair of straw shoes on his feet. Although Liao Kong was in the realm of death, he was still calm and composed. Although his voice was not loud, it was like thunder in the ears of the East faction Fanzi. His spirit gradually became one, perfect and flawless. Thoughtless dhyana technique. Yang Guang praised. The world only knows that Liaokong Zen master is proficient in silent meditation. Who would know that in the Jingyan Dhyana book written by first ancestor celestial monk, only the thoughtless dhyana technique has the most essence. I am also surprised that Liaokong Zen master can cultivate the thoughtless dhyana technique to this level. Thoughtless and pure thoughts are originally one thing. Since Jingyan Zen Temple is named after Jingyan, the technique they cultivate must also be thoughtless. Thoughtless as the sect. Thoughts are the state of mind. There are pure thoughts and delusional thoughts. The thoughtless dhyana technique is a Zen technique that is free of worries and obstructions, without delusional thoughts. Yang Guang was a wise man and instantly understood Liaokong's current state of mind. However, the sixth ancestor of Zen, Huaining, had not been born yet, and Liao Kong's thoughtless dhyana technique was far from reaching the realm of sect, body, origin, thoughtless, formless, and invincible as mentioned in the altar scripture. Liao Kong's current state was naturally perfect and flawless to others. The Jingyan dhyana technique was unleashed with 120% of its power in his hand. As long as there were no delusional thoughts, the Zen technique was flawless. In this world's martial arts spiritual battle, Liao Kong would never be shaken. Even if the future Ba C8 was here and directly attacked Liao Kong's spirit with heaven and earth striking, it would not be shaken. However, without the talent of the sixth forefather, the Jingyan dhyana art would always only be a third of the perfect state. Without the supplement of the formless and formless mantras, the silence dhyana art that Liao Kong thought was perfect would always have a fatal flaw. The first celestial monk had great wisdom and used the art of thoughtless to comprehend the path of no return and no form. His state at that time might not have been lower than Huining's, but he never had the wisdom of Huining, and could not elaborate and perfect the path of dhyana shio of thoughtless as the sect, formless as the body, and non-dwelling as the foundation. As a result, the Zen monastery of Jingyan's intentionless Zen art was never perfected. Everything is like a dream, all saints say it together. Therefore, delusional thoughts are silent, the mortal realm is empty, the heart is empty, the spiritual knowledge is not muddled. If a kind friend enlightens me, the Monkey King's silent knowledge, knowing and without thought and formless, who will help me see the faces of others? Perceiving the emptiness of all forms, the mind has no thoughts, the thought is perception, the awareness is non-existence. The wonderful way of cultivation lies in this. Therefore, although there are thousands of practices, only thoughtless is the sect, Yang Guang recited softly. Liao Kong's body trembled. He raised his head and said in surprise, "Your Majesty, you have such great comprehension, you actually understood the essence of the silence dhyana art from a few words of mine. At your level of martial arts, you are already very familiar with the moves and inner force of this world, you can't make a big breakthrough anymore. The competition is about emotions, willpower, martial arts cultivation, and wisdom. In this aspect, both Buddhism and Taoism are expert. You may not be as good as the three grandmasters in Song Ke, who fought in the sea of blood, have 100 changes in the face of battle, have a strong mind, and can use 120% of your strength in a life and death battle, even have a breakthrough in the face of battle, and take advantage of the favorable situation. But in terms of spiritual state, you are not inferior. What you lack is a bit of vigor. Now that you have the will to die, your spirit has reached the peak of your life, and under the attack of thunder, you are no less than the three grandmasters." Liao Kong's expression was calm, as if Yang Guang was not praising him. But the pressure between him and Yang Guang was getting stronger and stronger. Some of the East faction guards could not bear it anymore and opened a path for the two. "But it's a pity. You can't see Huaining." Yang Guang sighed. "Who is Huaining?" Liao Kong asked, listening to his name. "He seems to be a Buddhist. Heart like a Bodhi tree, body like a mirror. Wipe it often, don't let it be contaminated with dust." There is no Bodhi tree, and the mirror is not a mirror. There is originally nothing, how can it be contaminated with dust? Taoism teaches Hongren, and Hongren teaches Huaining. Only after 40 years in this world can we see Huaining. Yang Guang put down his hands behind his back, and with a leap, he came to a dozen steps in front of Liao Kong. The sixth patriarch of Zen is Huaining. Liao Kong laughed in realization. I see. He stretched out his staff, and the vital qi of intentionless Zen technique was already flowing, as if he was carrying a heavy weight in his hand. He looked at Yang Guang and Liao Kong and sighed. "If that's the case, I thank your Majesty for clearing my doubts. Your Majesty, please make your move." Yang Guang smiled. "You are not worthy for me to make my move now." He looked at Liao Kong's crystal-like body and shook his head. intentionless is the sect, formless is the body, and non-dwelling is the foundation. Only when the purpose, the nature, and the foundation are consistent, when the essence, chi, and spirit have climbed to the peak of this world, when the outside is the broken Vajra form, the inside is the Vajra heart, and when you are only a step away from the broken void, then I will have to kill you personally. The current you is so weak that I have no interest in you at all. Do you think anyone is worthy of me killing with my own hands? Yang Guang looked up to the sky and laughed. If it was Huaining or the celestial monk, it would be more like it. Little monk, you are too far away. I personally explained your doubts and demonstrated the altar scripture to you, so that you must climb to the peak of your spirit in the battle, and then Eunuch Tong will personally send you into demonization. Only then can you become a great demon. Little monk, are you ready? Yang Guang turned around and asked. The commanders of the eastern and western depots were ready to fight. Liao Kong gripped his staff tightly and swung it forward without saying a word. Wang Ji, Gu Deong, Lu Jin, and the commanders of the eastern depots drew their swords and faced the attack. It was a bloody battle. The intentionless Zen technique allowed Liao Kong's spirit, true qi, and physical strength to be as round as a circle. Under the fierce, killing aura of the two depots, it polished, rounded, and restrained. Gradually, it was stripped of its embellishments and sharpened to the edges. A staff rolled and persevered under the attacks of several Baihu. Yang Guang turned around and walked out of the Jingyan monastery, leaving Liao Kong and the others behind. Tong Guan quietly walked out from the side and stood in the shadows dozens of steps in front of Liao Kong, waiting. He waited for Liao Kong's spirit to climb to the peak in the battle, waited for the dregs of his martial arts to be hammered out, and waited for the Zen theory in the altar scripture to be integrated into Liao Kong's spirit. Amidst the chanting of the two depots, Liao Kong was climbing to the peak of his martial arts, just as Yang Guang expected. He waited at the entrance of the monastery. When he saw Yang Guang come out, he went forward and asked, "Your Majesty, should we wait for Supervisor Tong?" "No need to wait. She won't take long. Get ready to set sail, we are going to Jiangdu." Chapter 341. Yang Guang stood high in the sky, the formation of airships under his feet sailing above the sea of clouds, heading in the direction of Jiangdu. Other than most of the two warehouses, there were also about 5,000 soldiers from the 12 guards with him. What was different from history was that this time, when he went to Jiangnan, he did not leave behind the Central Plains, which was in imminent danger and was threatened by the rebel army. Instead, it was a country made of iron. After the relentless assassinations and purges of the two barracks and the bloody purge of the 12 demon guards, there was no longer a power that dared to compete with Yang Guang in the entire Guangzhou region. The Great Sway's prestige was established in this bloody battlefield. Now that Yang Guang had come to Jiangdu with the momentum, he directly threatened the last stronghold of the rebel army and the major clans, Jiangdu. After Jiangdu was pacified, the major clans in Guangdong no longer had the ability to resist. As for the Li clan far away in Taiyuan, it was even more hopeless. This trip to Jiangdu was not only the focus of Yang Guang's purge of the major clans, but also the last hope of the major clan's rebel army. He felt that his restless heart was becoming more and more restless ever since he left the Jingyan monastery. This world seemed to be emitting a strange fluctuation, as if a vast will was touching and exploring this world. Yang Guang sensed the indescribable fluctuation in the air, and suddenly laughed. "It's finally here." At this moment, Jiangdu, which was hundreds of miles away, was bustling with traffic. Although the flames of war had yet to be extinguished, Yangzhou was still under the protection of the Great Sway. Not only was it not desolate because of the flames of war, but it was even more prosperous because the wealthy all over the world had moved here. There was an endless stream of carriages and pedestrians at the city gates, and the shops and restaurants along the road were extraordinarily lively. At this moment, A dozen or so figures suddenly appeared out of nowhere in a secluded clearing outside of the bustling Yangzhou city. A translucent protective barrier completely isolated this place from the outside world. Very soon, 7 or 8 figures climbed up from the ground. There were men and women among them, and they were wearing clothes made of strange materials. Some were even wearing short sleeves or martial arts clothes. They carried all kinds of weapons on their backs, and some even wore very eye-catching metal armor. However, compared to the people lying on the ground, their style of dress was very much in line with this world. Those who had fainted were wearing modern clothes from over 1,000 years in the future. They wore short-sleeved shirts and long dresses. F***ck. Tang Dynasty with 15 people difficulty. What a F***king ghost. A man with short hair and a ferocious expression looked around and cursed angrily. The world we've been in recently has already reached the 6-star level, and now we have a 4-star Tang Dynasty with a 15-man difficulty. What the F***ck, another mutated world. His face darkened as if he was reminded of some bad memories. A mutated plot is indeed very troublesome. Logically speaking, in a 4-star world like the Tang Dynasty, the highest level characters should not be higher than 6 stars, which was the level of the 3 Grandmasters, Ning Daoqi and the others. The Tang Dynasty was one of the few worlds in Huang Yi's Wuxiao world where there were no 7-star characters who were on the verge of the void-breaking realm. If it rises to 6 stars, it means that there are 8-star storyline characters like Legendary Eagle and Supreme Grandmaster Ling Donglai, who can break at any time, interfering with the storyline. It's just that I don't know if it's the interference of the other main god teams, or if there's an unstable factor like a transmigrator. An ordinary-looking man with a slightly sharper gaze analyzed. Another man in a Taoist robe continued, "We have to be prepared that Xiang Yutian is still alive. If this old monster is still in the Tang Dynasty, he is definitely qualified to be evaluated as a 7-star peak storyline character. And in this Wuxiao world, when a 7-star peak makes a move, there's almost a 100% chance that he can break the void and advance to 8-star. Peak duel." The ordinary-looking man added expressionlessly, "Yes, as long as there's a fateful battle or a wonderful battle in the original work, when there's a one-on-one battle, the disgusting characteristic of breaking through at the last moment and fighting beyond stars is also the most troublesome point in the Wuxiao world." The man in the Taoist robe complained, "In the last team battle, the Tian team surrounded Qiao Feng, and in the end Qiao Feng, who was evaluated as a 4-star, forcefully exerted the terrifying power of a 6-star. It's too tragic. The Yangtze River's 3-layered waves 18 dragon palms. The Tian team was probably wiped out because of this. The newbies should be waking up soon." Luo Xian introduced the situation to them. The short-haired man ordered, "When the time comes, we'll know what the mission is." In the Tang Dynasty world, it's said that the Art of Longevity and the Victory Catalog may be 8-star items. If the secret can be unraveled, it can even reach 9-star. The world of the Victory Catalog is too scary. We can't let go of the Art of Longevity in the Tang Dynasty world. Where is this? A trembling question interrupted the conversation of the few people. The man in the Taoist robe turned around and looked. Indeed, someone among the newbies had woken up. He gave a look to the woman beside him. Luo Xian, who was wearing a wide-sleeved silk dress and fluttering white clothes, smiled and turned around. "Not bad, you're the one with the best quality in this group." The short-haired man took out a cigarette box and lit one for himself. He said, "Ever since someone in the main world wrote the book Infinite Horror, we don't have to always be noisy with these newbies. Recently, there are fewer and fewer idiots. Most people at least know how to obey." "Captain, you've just entered this world and you've already started smoking? The pressure shouldn't be that great." The man in the Taoist robe complained. The short-haired captain said thoughtfully with the cigarette in his mouth, "This world gives me a bad feeling." Hearing this, the team of veterans fell into silence. Whether it was the man in the Taoist robe who had been polishing his bow and arrow, or the handsome half-elf with slightly pointy ears and a neutral temperament, they all fell into deep thought. After Luo Xian finished explaining to the newbies, he gave them a thorough explanation. Suddenly, the empty space they surrounded burst into flames. The tongue of fire burned black marks on the ground like a dragon and a snake. Main Mission 1. Help Quozhong and Su Jiling escape from the pursuit of the Great Sui dynasty. Before the mission ends, if either Quozhong or Su Jiling dies, the mission will fail. Reward: 5,000 points. Main Mission 2. Help the twin dragons protect the Heshabi and survive under Yang Guangtian's demonic art. Before the mission ends, the Heshabi will fall into Yang Guang's hands. The mission will fail. Reward: 10,000 points. Main Mission 3. Help Li Shimin defeat Yang Guang and rebuild the Tang dynasty. Reward: 50,000 points. Warning: Yang Guangtian's demonic arts have been cultivated to the peak. If the mission fails, there will be no punishment. The veterans of the main god team stared at the mission notification on the ground dumbfoundedly. It was not until the flames had wiped out all the words that they managed to regain their senses. The short-haired captain stomped his feet and cursed, "Mother F*** King Main God. This is F** King Twin of the Tang Dynasty, not Legend of Heaven 4. Who the hell is Heavenly Demon Yang Guang? Not to mention that there's also the primordial spirit of the great Heavenly Demon here that can cultivate the Heavenly Demon power. Even if there's a primordial spirit of the Heavenly Demon here, you should find me a Li Shimin who has the Heavenly Sword. Without the Buddha's palm, do you think we can use our blood to fight for the Heavenly Demon power? Legend of Son of Heaven 4 is an 8-star world. To be continued. Chapter 342. Looks like Skyfiend Yang Guang is the focus of our mission this time. The young man in the Taoist robe analyzed. Although Yang Guang might have been strengthened by the 8-star heavenly demonic power, I remember that the heavenly demonic power can only be achieved by gathering the fragments of the great skyscraper's primordial spirit. Yang Guang, who was at his peak in the legend of Son of Heaven 4, was a peerless devil who had integrated the great skyscraper's primordial spirit. The Lord God has hinted to us that we are going to face Yang Guang at his peak, so the key to everything is the Great Sky Demon Primordial Soul. We still don't have enough information right now. No matter what analysis we do, we still lack material. Let's keep our doubts to ourselves first. The short-haired captain pondered for a moment, then raised his head and said, "Our top priority now is to find the twin dragons and prevent the mission from failing." "No, I don't think that's necessary." Luo Xian suddenly interrupted the captain. The captain turned around and asked, "What do you think? The key to the mission is not the twin dragons, but Yang Guang." It can be said that the entire mission does not revolve around the two main characters of the Great Tang Empire. All of you have been deceived by the inertia of the mission world. In the past, the storyline missions naturally revolved around the protagonist, but the protagonist in this world isn't the twin dragons. It's Yang Guang. The man in the Taoist robe suddenly realized. Regardless of mission 1, 2, or 3, the key has always been Yang Guang. As long as we get rid of Yang Guang, this mission will be easily solved. He danced excitedly. The reward is the same. The biggest reward is not the reward points announced in the mainline mission, not even the plot card reward, God is hinting to us, the world's biggest hidden reward. Hearing his words, even the man who was wiping the bow in his hands stopped what he was doing and raised his head. Luo Xian continued his words. The reason for the world's change, the hidden storyline of Sky Demon Yang Guang, is what the Lord God wants us to uncover, not to mechanically correct the storyline. Only by following the Lord God's intentions can we truly come into contact with the greatest benefits hidden in this world. The cause of the mutation. Think about it, the source of the mutation was able to create an 8-star enhanced Yang Guang. The hidden reward must be extremely rich. It could be said that it was at least an 8-star heavenly demonic power silver card, or even a complete 8-star heavenly demonic power gold card. To us, this hidden plot is unknown. But it's definitely the true core of this quest, and it's also the hidden storyline that the Lord God suggested that we touch upon, the man in the Taoist robe continued. This is something that the quest that revolves around the twin dragons will never touch upon. My opinion is to give up on the reward of the main quest and focus on exploring the hidden quest line of Yangguang. No. Luo Xian denied the Taoist robed man's statement. Is there something I've overlooked? Asked the man in the Taoist robe. Danger. You've ignored the risk. The principle of the Master God's space has always been that the greater the reward, the greater the potential risk. The most valuable things in the Tang Dynasty's Twin Dragons world are the He Shi Bai and the 4 great mystical books. Think about it, just these rewards alone require us to take the risk of a 6-star, or even an 8-star Yangguang. What about the heavenly demonic power card? The closer we get to Yangguang, the more dangerous it will be. If we search for Yangguang's secret, we will definitely anger him. If we want to find the source of the mutation, we will have to fight with this 8-star Tian Z4 Pinnacle Big Shot first. Imagining the scene of Yangguang fully activating his heavenly demonic power and attacking at his peak, all the members of the Windchasers collectively shuddered. Yangguang's whereabouts are easy to grasp. We'll know once we go to Jiangdu City. Considering that the Lord God placed us in Jiangdu, Yangguang might be in Jiangdu or on his way to Jiangdu, the short-haired captain said. Once we've thought about it, we'll go to Jiangdu and prepare to get close to Yangguang. It's hard to decide now. If we help Yangguang instead, the man in the Taoist robe suggested, then we won't be able to gain his trust. Yangguang is too strong. Helping him gain his trust won't be enough for us to get in touch with the source of the mutation in the plot world. Luo Xian analyzed. If we want to set up, then we have to bet on both sides. Strengthen the twin dragons, let them threaten Yangguang, then help Yangguang eliminate the twin dragons. Take this opportunity to recoup our investment and get in touch with the deeper plot, which is the source of the mutation. We'll wait for an opportunity to decide. For this reason, we'll temporarily leave this world and wait until all of us rush to 6-star before entering. Solving the hidden plot is also worth it. But we don't have the strength to do so. In truth, the positive side represented by the twin dragons also has a lot of potential. Yangguang threatens the Turks and Goryeo, and he's enemies with the Buddhists. Practically all the 3 grandmasters have a grudge against him. Songke, the evil cult, the hidden forces of power from the Taoist sects, Kind Boathouse, the volunteer army, and practically all the other forces of power are against him. The speed at which we invest in them will be too fast. Let's not talk about anything else. With the resources in the Master God's space, it'll be very easy for us to help the 3 grandmasters reach 6-star. The principle is that they'll fight at the peak of their power before the battle, and their fighting strength will probably be comparable to 7-star superhumans. With the 4 holy monks, Evil Emperor and Empressine, it won't be difficult for them to fight against Yangguang. This is probably the path that the Master God left for us to clear the main storyline. Because of this, the greater the investment, the easier the main storyline will be. At the same time, the rewards from killing Yangguang will be lesser. We need this sort of balance to strengthen the positive side when we dig out the subquest. At the same time, due to the conflicts between the forces opposing Yangguang, it'll also be a great test for the God of Reincarnation's ability to organize the quests. Luo Xian analyzed the situation for her teammate. The greatest benefit in this world is the source of the anomaly. We'll temporarily call it Great Sky Demon, and there are 2 sides surrounding it. Yangguang represents Great Sway and all the forces that stand against him, including Goryeo, Turkic Khaganate, the Righteous Path, the Evil Cult, and even the aristocratic families of Great Sway. We must cause an intense conflict between both sides to have a chance to get Great Sky Demon. The best way is to take down both sides. We'll place bets on both sides and control the situation. In other words, we'll be divided into two teams, but we don't have the strength to do that. Then, if we want to get out of this situation, we can only— The wind chasers held their breaths and looked at her in anticipation. The newbie was blocked outside by the soundproof barrier, and he looked at the excited veterans with a dazed expression. The man in the Taoist robe asked softly, "Only what?" "Don't interrupt my train of thought," Luo Xian said irritably. Her face darkened, and she started thinking with a savage expression. "You're Luo Xian, the negative side of the two-faced wise man." The man in the Taoist robe was scolded, but he was not affected. Instead, he looked at Luo Xian with anticipation. Once Big Sis has a second personality, someone will be in trouble. The wind chasers saw that Luo Xian's depression was getting worse, and they were all on tenterhooks, until Luo Xian raised her head and revealed her blood-red pupils. She carefully approached her and stuck the 3-star silver-ranked clear heart talisman on her body. "If the heart is as cold as ice, I won't be shaken even if the sky collapses." Luo Xian let out a long sigh of relief and returned to normal. She said, "The incomplete Ice Heart mantra can't suppress my negative personality anymore. After this big one, we'll pool the money to buy the complete Ice Heart mantra enhancement card for you, Big Sis." The man in the Taoist robe said softly, "Use the gold-ranked item. Immediately trigger our team battle, right in this world." Luo Xian said, "Big Sis, are you crazy? If we trigger the team battle in advance, there will be punishment measures. We're only a 5-star team, and our opponents will be at least 1 star higher than us, and they'll be ruthless too." The man in the Taoist robe broke down. "You said it yourself, this world is almost balanced between the positive and negative side. If we stand on Yang Guang's side, we might be swept away by the Twin Dragons faction. Other than provoking the Twin Dragons faction, the Demon Sect, the Righteous Sect, Taoism, and other forces that have conflicts with each other, but if we can think of it, so can they. If they set a trap for us, it'll be very dangerous for us to split up and provoke them. At least half of us will die. You should know that my negative personality has a special talent, right?" Luo Xian asked. The short-haired team leader raised his head. "Intuition? Yes. It's like a sixth sense. According to my negative personality's intuition, Yang Guang's side is very deep." Luo Xian sighed. "Why is it deep?" The man in the Taoist robe asked nervously. "I don't know, but I keep feeling that if we stand on Yang Guang's side, we'll die a terrible death. It's like an immeasurable terror, it makes my heart jump. I even feel that this world has a kind of will that has broken away from the Lord God, and I can feel the Lord God's doubts." Following Luo Xian's words, a strange feeling gradually spread in everyone's hearts. They heard the team leader say decisively, "Don't worry so much, let's go to Jiangdu first to set up the plan. Even if we really want to trigger a team battle in this world in advance, we have to fight for a sufficient advantage first. The greater the advantage, the more troublesome the opponent in the team battle will be." The man in the Taoist robe complained.